Count Igny Cornelius was trying to understand what his interlocutor had just said. His face was angry and puzzled. A mysterious figure stood across from him. The man was dressed in a long cape with a cowl that covered his face. He said that for as long as he could remember, he had encountered the Akim for the first time. The old man spoke further. He explained that he had found out only one thing about Mr. Balud's condition. Another interlocutor couldn't stand the pause and interrupted, and asked him what exactly had happened to him. Shadows covered their faces, but looks spoke more than words. The tension of the moment, as if before a storm, when the air vibrated with anticipation. "It just can't be this," one of them whispered faintly, the words lost in silence, broken only by the beating of his own heart. His fist clenched in pain, a sign of determination and grief at the same time. It was as if fate itself was in that gesture, foreshadowing the inevitable clash. He stood in the doorway, breathless, the hues of his figure blending into the semi-darkness, only the contours of his face giving away the tension. "Balud!" A voice suddenly broke the silence. The face of the boy lying in bed reflected the anxiety of sleep. The child's eyes slowly open, and a look of surprise appears on his face, as if he has just awakened from a disturbing dream. The man is startled. His eyes are dilated, shock at the sudden realization of reality. He looks around. Everything around him is engulfed in darkness. Only his figure looms in this monolithic blackness. "Where have I gotten to?" he muttered. His silhouette stood out against the black background as if he were alone in a boundless void. The old man lowered his gaze, contemplating his situation as darkness enveloped his view. The man started rubbing the back of his head and wondering where he was staying and what had happened. The first thought that came to his mind was that he must have already died and stopped in the other world. It was Sadatoshi Okasanai. In his lifetime, he had sulged the Uesugi clan. He looked around and thought what a gloomy place he had come to. He had only one explanation for everything that was happening, that he was dead. He clutched his hand and thought that his time of fighting was over, and it was over. The figure of a warrior standing on the threshold of a new world appeared before his eyes. The spirits of past battles swirled around him. Sadatoshi looked up. His gaze was calm, but a storm of emotions and memories raged within him. The wind ruffled his hair, as if trying to pull the shadow of the past away from his face and reveal his true feelings. He thought back over the last few moments and realized that it seemed the person he had failed to kill was Lord Date Masamune. He watched as the figure on horseback quickly moved away from him. He returned to his consciousness and kept scratching his head and saying that even after death he thinks about those events. His figure stood alone in the vast void, like a reflection of the isolation that now surrounded Sadatoshi, and only the sound of footsteps caught up with him in the silence, reminding him of the path yet to be traveled. Sadatoshi's eyes reflect surprise, trying to figure out if his previous experience was just an illusion. Suddenly, another figure appears in front of his face. He stands alone in the void, trying to find answers. The vagueness of his new location causes his soul to worry and search for truth. The young man began to look around, seeing only darkness. The same questions were rising up in his mind. He didn't understand what was happening, how he got here. He stopped and began to remember all his actions that preceded it. So first, he was going to the university to take the entrance exams. This, he remembered perfectly. Then the thought struck him as he pondered which was better, cat ears or dog ears. And while he was thinking about it, the guy was trying to remember what happened next. Before his eyes flashed as he was crossing the road at a crosswalk, and a car was rushing at him at full speed. The man stood shocked in total darkness. He found it strange and amusing that after that crossing of the road, he remembered nothing. He lay on the floor and laughed for a long time, remembering everything that had happened. There was only darkness around him. It was more like hysterical laughter. Here he was overcome with intense panic and anger. How could he really die just like that? There had to be something else. The stranger could not perceive the situation, for he was torn by uncertainty, many inquiries, and a lack of appreciation of reality. He tried to calm himself down, but still the panic attacks of laughter would not leave him. Even in jest, he could tell he was very tired, even though he was dead. Fumbling around in Vicky's basement last night didn't seem like such a good idea to him anymore. lying down and thinking about it after death, realized the guy. If he could be reborn and use all his knowledge from his past life, agree that would be really cool. It seemed that the present reality and realization had not yet reached our hero, and thinking about rebirth did not seem so funny and distant to him, because with his knowledge he could become so cool. Nevertheless, he continues to move forward, his steps full of determination and vitality, despite the uncertainty enveloping him. But he knew it couldn't be done. After all, such luck simply does not exist. He wanted to finish as a bright white light flashed behind him. His eyes were big with surprise, and he was breathless at what he saw. He genuinely didn't understand what was going on. It was as if black space was being torn apart, and on the other side he saw people shouting something. The word Balud sounded, by which he knew someone was calling him, for the people on the other side of the world were in the midst of it, and with tears in their eyes. Suddenly, an incomprehensible thing happened, as an unknown small hand appeared in front of him. In front of us sat a little boy who had not yet gotten out of bed. His eyes were frightened. The eyes are large and full of incomprehension and rejection of all events. He found himself alone in a huge unknown room on his own, but at the same moment also unknown bed. He was even more surprised when the woman took him in her arms so gently with exclamations that her boy was finally awake. The woman cries with joy. Balud doesn't understand what the other people are talking about and tries to take it in. The woman hugs her son tightly, unable to believe such happiness. There was a man standing nearby watching, and he was a little relieved that the situation had improved, although he was still concerned about what the doctor had told him. He recalls a conversation with a doctor who explained that another personality was likely living in Baluda, putting a great strain on his body. But the most interesting thing was that there was more than one personality. 2 different personalities have taken up residence in the little boy Baluda. The map shows the holdings of the city of Cornelius, surrounded by a secret base, and the city's name engraved on the edge. At the bottom of the map is the kingdom of Corellis and the kingdom of Maritza, separated by a clear border. The forest area, seemingly a secluded and peaceful haven, is in fact a key point with rich resources of land. It is a place where nature and politics intertwine, thus creating an occasion for conflict and power struggles. A map of territories where every nook and cranny represents a piece of grand strategy and ancient borders that tell stories of past battles and alliances. A wounded phalanx in full armor, surrounded by the grim walls of the fortress. Due to periodic wars with the neighboring kingdoms of Corelia, the Earl was in a poor financial position. But where can the young master be? Pondered the figure in the woods. He said they would go farther than usual this morning. She reflects, full of hope and expectation for the day ahead. The young girl smiled very gently and sweetly. It was Silern, little Balud's maid from Cornelius's house. She walked through the forest holding a basket and looking at the trees and nature around her. From afar, the cry of birds could be heard. The expression on her face changed in an instant. The young gentleman's hand was lying on the grass. All around was overflowing with laughter. Balud continued to lie on the ground looking up at the sky, holding his sword by his side. He laughed heartily and loudly. He added screams that sounded like he was dying, and supplemented everything with his moans and laughter. A young girl nearby began jokingly playing along with her comrade and saying that his life was very short, and she would gladly pray for him. Struggling to lift his head, he tried to resist the invisible weight that overpowered him. "For you to..." he began, but his words were cut short, unable to express all that was building up in his heart. Balud, devastated, cries out to the heavens, unable to comprehend the unbelievable. What kind of mother would even say such a thing? His indignation and bewilderment break the silence, as if he cannot accept the injustice of his fate. The figure opposing him, clad in armor, stands unwavering. Her face is hidden in shadow, but there is a determination and a hint of mystery in her eyes that adds to the tension between them. Balud is exhausted and defeated. Tears of helplessness roll down his cheeks, and he utters a barely audible, "Oh," recognizing his defeat in the face of circumstances that are stronger than he is. In an overwhelming rush, Balud, gathering the remnants of his energy, leaps up, ready for another spurt. "You are still full of energy, Balud," A mysterious voice from afar encourages him, recognizing his indomitable spirit and his desire to keep fighting. A new charge of determination flashes in his eyes, and he gains strength. He is preparing for a decisive maneuver that he says should end the threat facing him. "I'll end this with a swift attack," he says with confidence, weighing each word as if it lends strength to his arm ready to swing. In the next instant, he moves forward sharply, the silhouette rushing forward to attack with such speed that it seems to barely touch the ground. Balud stops half-heartedly, sensing something unexpected. "What?" he blurts out. The next instant, he jumps back, confused by the sudden and overwhelming force that interrupts his attack. He looks puzzled, his plans and calculations disrupted by the unpredictable change. Maid Seelern watches in horror, her eyes widened with fear. The twins, who had just competed, saw a poor and frightened Seelern, and decided they had to end these games because they almost killed each other. The woman ended the bout and said that was enough for today, and ordered Baludu to prepare for next time. The guy exhaled with relief and was incredibly happy that it was over for the day. The maid sat next to him. He addressed her by name as if he wanted to tell her something. He talks about the moment when he received a silver coin from his dad, which was his pocket money for that month. His father knew the lad would waste it all, but still gave him a chance, which, of course, little Balud did not take. There was no limit to his happiness. Seelern was obviously not very pleased by this, but rather angered. He confirmed the look of horror on her face as he pulled the very silver coin out of his pocket. The maid was very angry, because she had already asked the little one many times not to do that, but it only amused him. Seelern realized that at this rate, the young lord would go down a crooked path, and not value his funds at all. She set out to teach him, and set him on the right path for a better future. The maid remembered what he had been like at the age of 6, an extremely sweet and honest child. Tears came to her. She was sure she was the only one who could fix that boy. She wanted to talk to him urgently, but he had already left and left his nurse alone. He quickly climbed in and opened the large window that Seelern saw. The guy just laughed and waved her off. The boy runs down the road full of excitement and freedom, his face reflecting joy and carefree. "Sorry, I'll listen to you when I get back," he shouts over his shoulder, not wanting to lose a second from his adventure. "Please wait, we need to talk," comes from the maid, but her words are lost in his merry laughter and the noise of running. The maid stands, clothed in seriousness and sternness, her gaze indicating her intent to restore order. "You will be severely punished when you return." "God," she murmured, anticipating the difficult task of keeping the boy within the bounds of discipline. The street is bustling with merchants and passers-by, each busy going about their business, unaware of the little drama unfolding in the old mansion. Home is a word that sounds like an invitation and a warning at the same time, promising the boy both the end of an adventure and the beginning of new stories. The boy casts a glance over his shoulder and yells, "Hey, Tyrus!" He calls for someone to follow him. It was a joyous exclamation of a long-awaited meeting. Our hero's familiar greets Lord Balud with giving and open arms. Balud apologized for his delay, but surely that his good acquaintance would forgive him. They traveled together to their special secret base that apparently only the two of them knew about. The landscape opens up before them, offering a vast expanse to explore. The houses flicker behind them, giving way to an open space full of mystery and possibilities for the two adventurers. The guys appreciated the horizons and the incredible view, which they really enjoyed. The glade in front of them is strewn with flowers, creating a secluded and quiet place to stash and play. Someone on the other side of the clearing recognized our guys and shouted Baluda's name. It was a girl, almost the same age as the boys. They started playing their interesting games, making up different adventures. It was Margot Porco. Obviously, her appearance had stirred the mood of the boys, for she had grown up with them. The boy's face lights up with surprise as he touches the mystery they have discovered. As they contemplate their discovery, one of them shares an opinion he heard from his father. "My father told me that these things are terribly unpalatable." But despite this statement, their curiosity about this new and unexplored remains unchanged. His companion agreed that this is indeed true if you eat this vegetable raw. All the friends were incredibly curious to know what the guy was going to do with their find. This was the stellar hour of our Balud and his other two personalities. Laughter and joy fill the air as friends exclaim, "Yummy!" after tasting the prepared dish. Their faces sincerely express their pleasure and happiness at the shared activity and the delicious result. Friends were very surprised when they found out that if you just squeeze and boil this under potato, you can get real sugar. Some of them didn't even care how to do it. The main thing is that the result was delicious. He began to tell me that sugar is made from sugar cane, which is very rare on this continent. And beekeeping is also not very developed in this area, so there are only fruits from sweet things. The guy claimed that thanks to this sugar, he would be able to earn funds, and this is just the beginning. He was already mentally an incredible lot, and along with him, the other two personalities who were providing knowledge to the young host rejoiced. The joy is uncontrollable as the boy soars into the air, surrounded by falling coins. Yo! His joyful cry infects everyone around him with the energy of success and fun. 3 characters stand before us. A wise old man with a satisfied smile, an enigmatic young man shrouded in the shadow of unknown intentions, and a boy whose expression reflects weariness and perhaps disappointment after initial delight. The elder, laughing, continues, "Because of that man turned out to be the commander of the army." His words sound like a warning, or perhaps an account of the unexpected consequences of their adventure. A warrior in full battle attire strides into battle, his gait confident and determined. "Saman has won many victories." The words might speak of past honors or upcoming challenges they have just encountered on their journey. Chests and barrels full of treasure promise wealth and prosperity. Each container may conceal wonders or secrets waiting to be discovered. A shadowy figure towers shrouded in darkness and mystery. Its contours are deceptively simple, but within may lurk unknown powers or even secret knowledge. Friends sposetriga behind the actions of his comrade, and wondered what he wrote such a thing. The boy said it looked like he was just convulsing. At the moment Baldan was squealing and laughing, and already imagining himself extremely rich. It looked like he had calmed down a bit. Baldan sharply reprimanded his friends with threats that if they ever told anyone about the sugar, he would kick them out, and they could never come back to serve him again. Friends, of course, that all unanimously promised to keep this information secret. The master got a bit mopey, and decided to leave the harvesting of the entire crop to his subordinate friends, who are clearly happy to follow every order. Well, his journey continued. Baldan decided to walk through the main streets of the city, which were very crowded and noisy. It was surrounded by beautiful tall houses with spacious windows. Our hero walked into one of the shops holding a strange pouch, inquiring how the sales were going. He was greeted by a girl with a wide, welcoming smile, seemingly very happy to see him. The kid walked through the store, looking all around. The young girl was very interested in the contents of the pouch Baldan was holding, and didn't quite want to share. That smiling and friendly girl was Selina Savarin, president of Savarin Company. So Baldan opened the pouch and handed it to his friend, who immediately realized what treasure was inside. She took one ball to try it out. Of course, that flavor was magical and very sweet, which brought a pleasant smile and joy. Baldan couldn't contain his emotions of joy that his goods tasted good, but the behavior greatly puzzled Savan, who watched the kilka-second show with amazement. The kid finally calmed down, and with a fresh head was starting the conversation again. He wanted to leave the trading of his goods to Savannah, to which there was not very happy. We'd also like to point out that Savannah had cute little ears on her head, and Baldan couldn't resist touching them. Savannah was infuriated by this and pinched the kid's hand with all her might, which encroached on her wealth. Well, the conversation was back on track. Baldan explained that he wasn't going to leave all trade matters to the girl. He only wants to use her company's name and leave it up to her to run the business, and he will decide where to spend the funds. Savannah's surprise was unparalleled. She couldn't understand what she was talking about at all. He explains his position sitting at his desk. When it comes to profit, it's all in your hands. A simple example. I decide what to buy or what to invest in, how much to invest. His gestures emphasize the seriousness of his intentions. Savannah, with a serious look on her face, stated that she wanted 30% profit on all sales, which of course Baldoon resented. The future partner started shouting and explaining that all the main funds would come from her, and of course that without her he would not succeed, and would just dream on. In the end, Baldoon agreed to 30%, but at first he tried to offer at least 15%. The girl was happy that she had achieved her set conditions, while Baldoon, on the contrary, was disappointed and a little angry about the situation. He didn't want to give up and tried to make another condition. The guy said he gives 30% if Savannah lets him touch her ears. Those words made the girl really angry. She was ready to turn everything upside down. She tried to soothe herself with the beliefs that this was just part of their deal. While the girl exhaled, she closed her eyes with her hands. As if breaking herself, she agreed to this request and said it would only happen once and only a little while. Baldoon reached out his hand and touched Savannah's soft ear lightly. He looked like his little dream had come true. The boy stood, his eyes shining with the happiness of a wish being realized. He couldn't help himself, and brazenly moved closer to Savannah to feel her ears with both hands and enjoy this moment more. This gesture made the girl incredibly angry, who hit her attacker with all her might, with a fist that he flew away from her a few meters away. It angered her that this was the first time she'd let someone touch her ears, and he didn't know the limits of his permissiveness. She tried to calm herself down, but the anger just overwhelmed her. Baldoon started apologizing while lying on the floor, which softened the girl a bit, and she agreed to let him go, but warned him to be gentler and more careful next time. He remembered that he could enjoy that softness and tenderness again. Baldney began to leap and dance around the store. Savannah again began to get angry and warned him that he must ask permission to touch her. Zavarin's company secretary, Rorona, enters with documents in hand. Her gaze radiates professionalism and curiosity. "May I ask what it is you do here?" Their reactions are different. Selena is immersed in embarrassed amusement, while he brightens with an innocent smile as if nothing had happened. Rorona, in the full confidence of her tone, concludes, "Looks like you're up to something interesting." Her words strike a spirit of intrigue and anticipation of developments. He, with his characteristic boldness, challenges her and asks if she is afraid to take a chance. Then, gathering his wits, he explains his position. "Naturally, we'll take care of the risk. One way or another, it's worth the gamble." His gaze becomes more serious, reflecting the internal struggle between risk and potential reward. The playful gleam in her eyes promises seduction and secrets just waiting to be revealed. Calm and confident, Rorona is in control, her face reflecting impenetrable calm and professionalism. He looks slightly confused, trying to figure out what kind of game she's luring him into, and how this is all going to end. Rorona cryptically clarifies if some information will cost a lowered share of their contract, continuing to keep the intrigue going. It looked like she had seen everything that had gone on before, and warned Baldoon to pay attention the next time he wanted to play with the company president's ears again. She also explained that anthropomorphs would only allow their ears to be touched when they would trust their body as well. Baldoon's surprise and Savannah's anger was simply unbounded. Rorona joked about it, but Savannah was very angry, and she didn't like the topic of conversation. Baldoon was a little embarrassed by this conversation, but Rorona Jatoma said that she was already talking a bit, so it was time to get back to work. So the future partner said that he would like his sugar to start selling in the capital as soon as possible. His expression is serious and full of determination. He is completely focused on the business goals in front of him. In the distance, the castle rises above the surrounding lands like an old guardian full of mystery and history. The young man steps into the spacious halls, where every step echoes with an air of ancient grandeur. And there stands the girl, a cheerful and friendly greeter, the maid's face glowing with a smile, ready to welcome new guests to this ancient home. The maid was in a panic, her eyes full of anxiety. She cried out to the Lord, "When I couldn't tell my lady and master where you were, I was under a great shock." The companion, on the other hand, responds with unfailing optimism, his smile and words meant to reassure. Her gaze sizzles and her face expresses irritation over an unforeseen situation that is clearly out of control. She leaves no room for doubt in her words, The Lord promised that next time he would be sure to put her on notice of his plans. He sits dejected and discouraged, his posture and look suggesting utter despair. "I'm really sorry." Her eyes are closed and a look of condescension forms on her face, as if she is already willing to forgive this transgression. To say that the boy really regretted his deed was definitely not. It even occurred to him to involve the housewife in harvesting his field. She seemed to realize everything just from the look in his eyes and got really pissed off. Events change and Baldoon and his servants met her mother, and from afar, unknown men approached them. The mother wanted to Zazozatiti, her son, to do things so that he would do better each time. She also added that she had a great idea, so their plans for today have changed somewhat. The woman also added that they had guests. Her face looked like she had been waiting for them for a long time, but she didn't tell anyone about it. Baldoon was not pleased with this news, and had a bad feeling about it. The mother introduced one of the chief guests. It was an older manly man, quite charismatic and strong in appearance. The boy recognized the character, and obviously he didn't like him very much, for it was General Ramillis. The mother explained that she used to learn everything on her own, and the general was her supervisor. So recently she went to him to get his opinion and asked for help with her son's training. The man stepped in and told that he couldn't refuse Mrs. Magat, Mauritia's strongest mercenary. The general smiled sincerely and expressed his hopes for a successful collaboration with Sir Balud. The boy did not seem very happy at this news, and at the end another guest appeared near them. It was Teresa Bradforth, daughter of a nobleman of Mauritia, and a childhood friend of our Balud. She began to talk about the rumors surrounding her longtime comrade regarding his experience in battle. She spoke of herself as well, and added that she was eager to challenge Balud. She has serious intentions of defeating him and putting him in his place. Balud and Ceylon were startled by such news and the sudden change in circumstances. Teresa also seemed to have a special fondness for Ceylon. She showered the girl with compliments and offered to take her in as a servant. Poor Ceylon didn't know where to hide, but this girl's behavior further motivated Teresa and warmed her enthusiasm. The maid didn't understand what was going on and when this nightmare would end. She hid behind her master's back to shield herself somehow from Teresa's emotions, who just couldn't hold herself back. Mrs. Maggot couldn't watch these antics, so she shouted orders for them to start getting ready. Balud and Teresa drew their swords and stood opposite each other, tossing evil sayings to annoy their opponent. Well, the fight is on. The fight begins with a sudden movement, their figures moving swiftly and decisively, the incandescent energy of the bout vibrating in the air. The three faces, each with a different expression, focus, determination, and caution, seem to reflect different stages of inner struggle and readiness for the challenges that lie before them. The older warrior looks on with interest, his gaze full of curiosity and slight surprise, as if he's wondering, oh. The action scene is filled with movement and tension the moment the weapons meet, creating an explosive energy of clash and determination to fight. Teresa's face reflects a moment of confusion as she realizes the unexpected turn of events. Magat and Ramillis watched the action and noticed that Teresa had gotten stronger, but it wasn't enough. In the open terrain, the two silhouettes separate again, creating a dramatic moment of retreat after a quick, intense clash. In front of us is a girl whose ironic gaze and half-open mouth give the impression of slight irritation and skepticism, emphasized by her repeated, "Ha ha, ha ha." Teresa leans forward in concentration, tensing every muscle, preparing for a decisive blow, and his gaze is full of determination and concentration on the action to come. The general noticed that she was using body enhancement magic. The sudden realization of her opponent's speed catches the young warrior off guard. His eyes widened in surprise, and he can't hide his admiration for her swiftness. The girl, who personifies confidence and equanimity, deftly manipulates the situation, and her words, "There you are, you're caught," reflect her strategic superiority and willingness to use the moment to her advantage. The blink of reaction on the young warrior's face conveyed her shock and realization that she was in a difficult situation. The force of the impact throws Teresa backwards. Her body arched from the power of the sudden collision, and she struggles to keep her balance under the pressure of the invisible wave of energy. Stunned and lost, The girl falls to the ground, her eyes full of surprise and incomprehension, her arms instinctively outstretched in an attempt to cushion her fall and find support. Baldoon turns around to see the reaction of his companions, who seem to be both puzzled and impressed by what is happening, their gazes registering the implications of the unexpected turn of events. Teresa lay in a clearing among the grass, dazed and battered, while Balud wiped drops of sweat from his face and grinned achidically. She began to blurt out that she would definitely be able to overcome him next time, and that she would always make sure he remembered that. Balud only smiled back at her without saying anything. Teresa got even more angry and started calling him arrogant and mean. His mother was watching all the events and was also happy for her son, and was proud that the girl couldn't handle him. The mother asked the general what he thought of Balud's abilities. The man was silent at first, gathering all the information. He noticed that the guy had defeated a strong opponent without using a single drop of magic. Such a thing could be seen very rarely, even among royal knights. The general was intrigued by the event. He approached the kid and asked if he'd like to try one round against the general himself. The guy wasn't confused or scared, but he realized that this fight was going to be tough. He asked only to be as easy on him as possible. Balud turned back around to meet his mom's gaze. She smiled through her teeth and warned him not to even think about losing. The boy was puzzled by these words, but he stood his ground and did not think of giving up. The second battle has begun. Baldoon and General Ramillis stood opposite each other and looked only into the eyes of the enemy. Before the kid knew it, the man had already started attacking him. The dynamics of the fight encompasses the moment. Movements are sharp and decisive. Each blow is overflowing with energy and willpower. The young fighter and his experienced opponent clash in a battle where speed and skill determine the result of every maneuver. The clash was the apogee of their confrontation, the epitome of the spirit of competition. Baldoon's eyes read not only fear but also determination, for each challenge only makes him stronger. A smile appears on the man's face, full of confidence and hidden knowledge. He can dodge something like this even without magic, his words dripping with respect for the skills of the young fighter, who seems to possess not only physical strength but also exceptional agility. Splash and chaos take over the moment as the battle reaches its climax. The sounds of clashing metal, crackling, and screeching fill the air, creating a sense of a frenetic and violent battle where each participant throws all their strength into the fray. And then there is an explosion of action, when the young warrior, becoming more and more resolute with each passing moment, parries the powerful blows of his opponent. The energy of the movements, the acceleration of the pulse of the battle, all this adds to the picture of the growing tension and the coming denouement of their fight. You can read the desperation and seriousness in the young warrior's eyes as he pleads, "Seriously, be careful with me." It is an admission of his own vulnerability, and at the same time a desire to get through this ordeal without losing his honor. With a smile and an ease that hides deep experience, his opponent replies, "Come on, you can't fight an old man, can you?" These words carry both challenge and encouragement, offering the young warrior a chance to prove his strength and skill. Here, the heroes face the full might of battle. The young warrior meets the attack with complete determination and focus, his sword ready to fight back. The sounds of weapons clashing are deafening, and the tension of the battle reaches its peak, every moment full of decisive significance. The power and confidence of a seasoned warrior can be felt in his every movement. He is hunched over, preparing for a powerful overhead strike, and in his posture you can read not only his strength, but also his strategy, the deliberation of each next step with which he intends to win this fight. The young hero's face contorted with strain and effort. "You," bursts from his chest as he meets the gaze of his opponent. This word passed through his teeth can be both a challenge and an admission of his own dissatisfaction with the current state of the battle. The meeting of the two blades becomes the climax of the duel. The young fighter's sword meets his opponent's weapon, and sparks from the clash light up their struggle. The moment of truth comes when the outcome of the fight hangs in the balance, and the two opponents use all their skill and determination. Energy explodes around the young warrior as he attacks with determination, his entire focus centered on achieving his goal. This moment of action pulses with tension, every muscle in his body tense in anticipation of his next move. Baldan used magic that empowered his body for the next attack. The man with the beard looks on, his face contorted in a smile that can express both approval and sarcasm. There is a sense of experience in his gaze, and he seems to enjoy the process of teaching his protege. Even if the lesson seems particularly harsh, the young warrior's cry of defiance and self-confidence breaks the silence. He does not relent in the face of adversity, and his determination seems unshakable. The sound reflects not just the joy of battle, but also the confidence in his own abilities. Now his movements are in flight. The expression on his face speaks of surprise and shock. Perhaps not everything goes according to his plan, but he does not lose his spirit, and is ready to adapt to circumstances, however unpredictable they may be. And so the mentor, a man with a beard, takes a firm stand, preparing for action. He's aiming. His intentions are clear and precise. In that simple statement lies the depth of his experience and knowledge, foreshadowing the next moment in this tense confrontation. Precision of movement in combat is critical, and a turn of the foot indicates readiness for a dash. These details are often unnoticed, but they are the key to mastery. The mentor recognizes his student's speed, but too predictable. He recognizes and praises, but also sees weaknesses to overcome. It's like a game where each move leads to a new level of understanding and respect between teacher and student. Finally, the encounter comes with a decisive blow, a dream of victory that instantly becomes reality. The energy of the clash cuts through the air, and the tension and passion of the battle find their peak in this whirlwind of action, where every next move can mean the end or a new beginning. The young hero's face reflects a sudden realization, and in his wide-open eyes the reflection of imminent danger. Sweat rolls down his forehead, each drop like an echo of his effort and fear of the possible outcome of the battle. The sword thrusting into the ground creates a whirlwind of dust and power, its movement the final chord of a powerful blow. All the power and determination with which the blow was struck is embedded in this earthly trace, the harbinger of the outcome of the battle. "It's over now," came the words of his mentor as he prepares the final blow. The mentor, whose face reflects concentration and perhaps surprise, notices something unexpected. His eyebrows are furrowed, his gaze staring off into the distance, hinting at an unforeseen turn in this duel. A momentary surge as the warrior's sword slams into the ground. The mentor's amazement speaks for itself. Despite all his confidence and experience, something happens that throws him off balance. The eyes of the fearful fighter reflect despair and fear, a hand pushing off the ground with determination. And here is the moment of collision where the two fighters meet again in a battle. With each step he took, the tension rose like a string before a tug. His eyes narrowed, his gaze steely and piercing. His scream, filled with rage and despair, rang out. His hands clenched into fists, and he was ready to defy fate. Behind his back towered the general, whose face was contorted with a foreboding horror. Had to go on the offensive and not look back to win. Beneath the broad smile are the thoughts of a man who had not expected such a turn from his interlocutor. "You've defeated me," he admits defeat. A loud sound echoed throughout the neighborhood. The general rubbed the back of his head and started laughing loudly. He realized that he had just been defeated. He really didn't expect this from his opponent. Baldan wasn't used to praise, so he was embarrassed to hear it. The opponent also added that he had a lot to learn from the boy. The young hero, stunned and frightened, froze with an expression of horror on his face. Someone comes up behind him and takes him by the shoulder. The boy's anxiety dissipates for a moment as his mother hugs him affectionately, reassuring him. Her confident smile and light tone remind him that defeat was very close. He remembered his mother's lessons from his childhood, when she taught him to kick right between his opponent's legs when the situation was desperate. Mistress ran to greet him and felt a little sorry for him, for he had just survived 2 hard battles. Emma admired him and said that in time he would become a great warrior. Geplivati on Neril confirmed these words and said that Balud will become so big that he will be able to control the destiny of the country. Ramilis couldn't get over this surprise and admiration for the young warrior. Teresa could not in any way restrain her temperament and charm, and greeted the winner sincerely, proclaiming a salute to Mrs. Magott. Away from the hustle and bustle, in a secluded house amidst the woods, from where the smoke of coziness wafts. Here, in peace and quiet, after storms and adventures, the characters find a corner of tranquility and rest for their tired souls. Dark shadows hide the secrets of the old attic, where every object is wrapped in a web of memories. Meet a new character, a master craftsman in Gort's cistern, Gort. He looked very exhausted and wanted to rest a little, who approached his workshop house in search of a craftsman. The artisan's gaze becomes attentive and a little wary. He tries to understand who could have come to him so unexpectedly, and what intentions brought this man to his secluded workshop. In front of him stands a boy with a broad smile, as sincere and bright as a morning sunbeam. His cheerful mood seems contagious, and an atmosphere of good-naturedness spills into the air of the workshop. It was our Balud. He made sure that the very master everyone was talking about was standing in front of him, and said he had a special order for him. The boy said that he had heard many good reviews, and said that the master was very skillful for his age. Gort liked these words very much, but he warned him that he would not give the boy anything for empty words. But Balud also noted that he had heard from people that a craftsman has no taste. These words made Gort extremely angry, and he shouted that he was practicing a craft, not an artistic endeavor. He was sending the boy home so that he would not stand in his way, for a man has the right to do whatever he wants. Balud started laughing a little and asked him to calm down and not to be angry with him. It looks like the guy had something that should have interested the master, so he only asked for an opportunity to show what he had. That was so interesting. The action takes place in a Savannah store. Inside sat Savannah, Rorona, and Balud. The director was saying that Balud's sugar was selling at an incredible rate. Because of this, her company's stock would skyrocket. Rorona was more skeptical and reasonable. Savannah pondered on their next moves, for she had already managed to procure 5 hectares of land. Baluda was shocked by the news, because it was more than they really needed. The girl thought they should take as much as they could at the moment. She immediately changed the subject and proclaimed that these lands would count as an investment in their cause. She began to admonish Balud to look at the situation like a real merchant, to which he immediately began counting his profits. The girl immediately told him his part, and it is firmly 30% of earnings. The guy agreed at once because he took absolutely no risks. He also reminded that in no way could he complain, because he has the ability to touch her fluffy ears. Rorota reminded the young lad that if he squeezed their company president's ears too much, he would be forced to marry her. He fell to his knees and began to apologize again for his behavior. Rorota was amused by the situation, but Savannah was annoyed and angry. Rorota decided to end this childish fun and get down to business. She opened a drawer of interesting contents and said that at Balud's request, they had bought all the cheap gold they could find. She wondered what he was going to do with it. Balud reacted as if he was seeing gold for the first time, which made Savannah laugh extremely. He pulled himself together and started telling her that he had to use the gold to make something interesting. Savannah was immediately alarmed, but he asked her to calm down and was ready to show her everything. He held out his hand with something inside and presented it as a sample. From his hands emerges the splendor of a metal flower, intricate and finely crafted. Each petal reflects the light, creating a play of shadows and highlights, demonstrating the mastery of his work and the infinite possibilities of the material he wields like a true artist. Amazement and joy overwhelmed the girl who saw the work. Her hands are in the air, and her face is lit up with delight. Such a piece could be sold even to the nobility for a good handful of gold coins. She continues, already practically dreaming of a future where they can determine the cost price of their creation. Her eyes glow with entrepreneurship and imagination, painting a picture of their success. The boy does not hide his amusement, throwing his hands up in the air and smiling broadly. He said that they would not spend even half a gold coin on this product. His merry laughter is contagious and fills their little gathering with optimism for the future. The women immediately jumped on him with accusations that the raw material should be worth at least 15-20 gold coins. They demanded an explanation, to which Balud said it was only gilding. There was no end to the surprise, but the guy reiterated that it was just gold plating. With confidence, he shows off the result of his labor, a gorgeous metal flower, now with gold plating. This is not just a piece of jewelry, it is a symbol of their aspirations and dreams that they are going to realize. The women persisted in convincing Balud that it took just as much money and time to make this jewelry as it did to make a piece of real gold jewelry. The boy's confident look reflects his self-assurance and satisfaction with his work. He knows that the jewelry he has created is more than just its material value. The girls were embarrassed and puzzled by these actions of their business partner. They looked at each other and understood each other's thoughts without words. The president was swept up in a wave of excitement and the desire to earn as much money as possible the faster. She was gathering all her skills as a merchant together. The sudden burst of emotion is accompanied by a resounding "yes" is the culmination of their passions and ambitions, burning away all doubts and fear of the unknown future they are ready to step into together. Events further develop in Gort's workshop, where Balud has returned again with ready-made ideas. He said hello to the foreman. He had a heavy sack of something on his shoulders. This time the master greeted Balud already with a smile and joy, as if they had already become best friends. He reported that he is already finishing 20 items on his order. In the box were several pieces of the same jewelry Balud had shown the girls in the store. They were all unrivaled, shiny, and had very interesting designs. The master expressed his gratitude to Balud and said he was only able to do all this with his help. The young man, with a slight smile and a wistful look, remembers the master calling him young master, as if there was more to those words than just an address. This title for him is like a bridge between the past and the future, where he is still an apprentice, but his potential to become a master is already visible. He was very annoyed at the fact that the master pronounced the words of young Master Maggot just like a fool, for there was only a difference of one letter. Gort made sure that Balud was feeling well, for from the outside he looked a little puzzled. The young man shows off his new invention with delight and a twinkle in his eye. Well, I'll borrow your desk," he says, and his smile reflects satisfaction. "Power source?" ponders the craftsman aloud as he examines an assortment of jars and oils, noticing the potential in simple things and everyday objects that can be transformed into something more. With focus, he combines oil cans and copper wire to create something that may seem simple at first glance, but carries a spark of innovation and engineering prowess. Surprise flashes in the master's eyes as he looks at his ward's new find. His gaze is full of curiosity and a bit of bewilderment as the young genius' next creation is revealed to him. "Hey, it's not like—" he starts, but the young man interrupts him with a cheerful smile. "Boy, where did you get that gold from?" He asks him a question that shows his amazement at the young man's ability to transform ordinary materials into a marvel of craftsmanship. The master stated that he had previously sold the piece to Messina, so the guy started showing and explaining everything to the master. Under his hands, these vessels he was connecting were boiling with liquids. The master, with anger and not understanding what was happening, began shouting and demanding an immediate explanation. He walked over to all the containers and couldn't believe his eyes when he saw how everything was boiling. The sudden realization leaves the master in a state of shock. His eyes widened, and his mouth opened in surprise. He cannot believe what is happening before his eyes. Balud pulled one of the wizard's jewelry out of that boiling liquid, but it became covered in gold in an instant. Gort couldn't believe his eyes, and wanted to know immediately how Balud had managed to pull this off. With a sly smile, the boy stands and observes. His confident look suggests that he knows more than he can say. The master watching the young man cannot hide his surprise and bewilderment, but at the same time, his eyes read admiration for this young soul full of secrets and discoveries. Balud got straight to the point and said he wanted to cooperate with Gort, to which he responded with instant agreement. The boy pulled out his sack and reported that he was able to bring some more ore to make jewelry. The master could not perceive the new information from shock. Balud once again questioned Gort, or whether he was sure of their cooperation, and explained that he would get more money if he could fulfill more orders. A young man in a state of deep thought, he hesitated at first, but then confirmed that he could finish all the orders by the end of the month. Balud was very happy to hear these words and looked forward to the work he had done. The men parted on a wave of joy and eagerness for work. Balud was left alone with his thoughts. His dreams revolved only around insane wealth and piles of money. Balud was later able to create primitive batteries from cans, similar to Baghdad batteries. When Masaharu, one of Balud's personalities, was watching a television program about urban legends where they talked about electricity BC, and his little brain was able to remember the information. At home, Masaharu experimented with various items to learn the whole process, and he was successful. 6 months passed. There were loud cries outside Savannah's store and threats not to come back here again. An old woman lay on the road outside the store, and the door closed loudly behind her. There were several people gathered near her. They were all angry and threatening towards Savannah. People were annoyed that she was the only one selling Gort's mysterious jewelry. Gort's gilded works were flying off the shelves. They looked no worse than things made of gold, but cost 10 times less. Even the upper class became interested in Gort's popular collection. A man who was out shopping walked by the store and observed an interesting picture. Savannah stood on the other side of the store, tired. She complained that these rude people were getting very annoying already. Rorona also complained about those annoying customers. The director was afraid that if they made even a mistake, the people would benefit and might even try to steal the jewelry or something. The girl laughed and remembered that it was all thanks to Balud's invention. The girl laughed and remembered that it was all thanks to Balud's invention. She was already imagining what a happy and successful future awaited them. While the girls were talking, a stranger came into the store and addressed the madam of the preteen. This greatly surprises the girl, with her eyes open expressing shock and bewilderment. The maid stands with her eyes closed, her face portraying peace and tranquility. Savannah began to act a little disdainful and insolent. She interrogated Balud about something, for why he had sent his maid. But the lady replied that her lord was busy inspecting a piece of land. The president didn't really believe the girl's words, and speculated that she wanted to keep Balud the farther away from her. Zealern reported that Balud had asked for volcanic dust. Savannah had no idea what he was talking about, but promised to fulfill his order. In her mind, she pondered Zealern's role, for she was only like an intermediary between them. Savannah asked me to tell her partner that she is very busy next week. So she also asked to be told that she was doing him a very big favor by searching for obscure material. The maid made a stern expression on her face and said that she had heard nothing about such cases. A ripple of misunderstanding, anger, and rivalry has built up between the women. Savannah stated smugly that she hoped to receive payment for the strange goods personally from Balud, to which Zealern replied in the negative and would do anything to prevent it. Rorona saw this awkward situation and tried to intervene somehow to fix this tension. Unfortunately, this situation only exacerbated the relationship between the girls and made them enemies and rivals. Balud felt tired, and he was getting chills because it looked like some kind of illness or cold. Now it all comes back to the majestic castle standing alone on the hill. Its walls and towers seem to look out over the surrounding countryside, embodying power and stability, waiting for those who dare to approach its ancient gates. If you take a closer look at the castle, where you can see the minute details of the stonework and architectural features, each stone in the wall carries stories of the past, and shadows and light play on its surface, creating a sense of living history. In the office, a man with a thoughtful face turns his attention to the report. "Is this an accurate report?" asks a woman standing in the distance. His reply, "Yes, but I haven't finished," hints at the importance and unfinished business that requires his full attention. At the table sat the Marquis André Selvi. He was disturbed and angry at the news that Cornelius's nearly destroyed holdings were now growing economically. He didn't want to hear for a second about a new source of sugar supply or Gort's strange collection. The conversation between the men concerned Balud. They considered him weak-minded and did not believe that he could have achieved all this on his own, and could not realize that he was capable of anything other than military activity. They suspected something else important was being kept from them. The man shouted with anger that because of this the plan to invade Maurice had been postponed. Then the eye is drawn back to the castle, which stands impregnable on a hilltop, like a symbol of power and strategic control. Its lonely walls seem like an island of stability amidst a fickle world. The territorial map reveals a complex network of possessions and political boundaries. Descriptions of power nodes and strategic locations, such as the capital of Mauritius and the estates of the Marquis of Selvi, as well as notes on geographical features, such as because of the mountains in the north and because of the river in the south, provide important information about the political landscape of the region. But all conflicts eventually caused Cornelius financial problems, preventing him from raising an army as large and strong as before. And Andrea intended to take advantage of this to exact his revenge. The man blurted out that at this rate, Cornelius's financial problems would disappear, and he would be able to rebuild his army. He was already a walking problem for them, but now he would be able to fight back even more. His interlocutor agreed with every word, and added that moreover the Vaughan would not be able to conquer Mauritia, as they had long wanted to, and they themselves might end up being conquered. The master raged with anger, and gave orders to find out immediately what was happening in Cornelius's lands. The calm and collected man responds with a subtle squint, his facial expressions revealing his coolness and control of the situation. He's probably already thinking of a plan, or knows more than he's showing. The Marquis is absorbed in his own thoughts. His gaze is focused and preoccupied. His eyes read worry or fear of the unforeseen consequences of current events. His aide in discreet attire bows his head, engrossed in deep thought. The two figures in the long hallway, one noticeably taller than the other, are absorbed in conversation and shared plans, their footsteps echoing in the spacious room. The man walks in front, indicating his potential leadership. His posture and the direction of his gaze express determination and independence. Gloomy clouds gather in the old man's mind, his wrinkled face tense from the weight of reflection. The root of this problem, he whispers to himself. He realized that in order to solve the case and get to the truth, then you have to look behind the scenes for what's going on. The older man turned to his aide and ordered Thoris to be called to him. In the distance, against the background of cloudy crowns, the castle rises proudly. Its walls, like guards of the past, stand impregnable over the small town. The ancient buildings frame the streets, and life here seems to flow in a measured pace from dawn to dusk. Noise and clamor accompany the dining time in the tavern. Conversations intertwine into a single rhythm of life, like notes in a piece of music. The waitress, like a ballerina on stage, glides confidently between the tables, offering smiles and warm words along with the food. Amidst the bustle of the hall, in the corner, at a table, a young boy raises his head, his gaze meeting the incoming warrior in full armor. The noise of the tavern intensifies, creating a halo of excitement around the new events that are just beginning to unfold. Laughter and joy echoed around the room. In front of the girl, glowing with merriment, is a line of mugs with a foaming drink. Her loud laughter, "Ah!" is infectious, and I can almost hear it penetrating every corner, warming the hearts of the visitors. Meanwhile, behind the bar, the owner observes with a smile, noting, "You seem quite strong, miss." His words carry sincere admiration and warm irony, indicative of the friendly atmosphere of the place. A young mercenary sitting at a table states, "A mercenary must be able to drink." His words sound like an unspoken rule of this world, where strength and endurance are valued as much as the ability to fight. "Are you a mercenary?" carries a challenge to anyone who dares to join their ranks. With a smile imbued with a slight sadness, she admits, "Which is unpleasant. Although I can't find a job lately." Her nonchalance hides a worry about the future, but she doesn't let it cloud the moment. Sounds of shh, shh, shh fill the air as attention shifts to the bartender and the customer. "Relax, there's money to be made," he replies with ease, offering comfort and confidence in the future despite the challenges. And then the girl bursts out laughing again, jokingly stating, It's fun to snuggle up when the conflict with Corellia is over. Her mischievous tone and carefree attitude to life is like a beacon to everyone around her, reminding them that even in the hardest of times, they can find a reason to be happy. She shares her worries with her drinking companions. I came to ask my sister for a favor, but what am I supposed to do now? Uncertainty obscures her usually cheerful look when she admits, I really need to find a new employer. Her eyes reflect a fleeting anxiety, a true expression that so rarely appears on her face, which is steeped in careless gaiety and frivolity. And there he appears, a young guy with a perplexed look in his eyes, asking, Perhaps you are a mercenary? His question seems like a suggestion, a clue to a new chapter in her life, perhaps a new adventure, or even a fateful meeting. Silence hangs between them, enigmatic and full of unspoken words, while the young man smiles, but his eyes search for an answer. Tension is replaced with boldness for a moment as she leans forward, squeezing out the question, And who are you? Her voice sounds testy, setting the stage for the decisive moment of their interaction. The boy is embarrassed, bows modestly, and introduces himself. I am Balud Cornelius, son of the Earl of the Hereafter. His confession is like a mask falling, revealing his true position and possibly offering her not just a job, but an adventure beyond her expectations. First her laughter floods the space, but then it breaks off and she asks, almost not believing her ears, What? You're the son of Ses Magota. Her amazement is intertwined with amusement. She hadn't expected such a turn. Then with a relaxed smile, she recounts her exploits. On the battlefield, we were best friends and very good. Her enthusiasm and openness emphasize her youthful optimism and readiness for new deeds. Finally, she introduces herself with dignity and brevity. I am Zirka, Fast Wind. Her name, like her nickname, promises speed and unstoppable strength, a sign that great things lie ahead. She sighs with a note of regret in her voice. But at the border, I couldn't find her anywhere, so I went to ask my sister for help. There is no work for mercenaries in this country. The realities of their world overshadow her carefree mood, the sincerity of her words palpable in the air. Her gaze is puzzled as she turns to the young man. Oh, and what is that? Her interest grows and she waits to see what he will say next, what he will suggest as the denouement to their recently begun story. Confidently and with the promise of future adventures, he replies, Actually, I would like to ask you something, Ms. Zirka. I will pay you 5 gold pieces a month. Would you like to work for me? His offer shines like a beacon of hope in a sea of uncertainty that she can cling to. Zirka's face reflects disbelief and shock. How much? She blurts out. The amount the young man has given her is clearly more than she expected, and it is evident in her widened eyes and surprised expression. The world around them continues to spin, oblivious to their little drama. The sound of the wind, the rustle of the grass, and the distant sight of the manor hidden among the trees remind them of the larger world outside the tavern. The manor seems to freeze in anticipation of the new stories that the heroes who have come to it will bring with them. After all, the boy and the mercenary will have a ride to discuss future business. The young man is beaming with a smile, his eyes glowing with pleasure and anticipation. His joy is contagious, and it seems that he already sees many successful ventures with his new comrade in front of him. Zirka seems stunned, however, surprise preventing her from fully comprehending what is happening. Perhaps you are upset? The young man's question seems sincere. He notices her reaction and wants to make sure of her well-being. Now the young man and Zirka must come to terms with the mutual recognition that their fates are now intertwined. He stands by her side, full of hope and expectation, while she still gazes into the distance of her thoughts, weighing the implications of their meeting. With concern in her voice, Zirka says, I was wondering what would be required of me for that kind of money. Her question emphasizes that the young man's promise seems too good to be true. Meanwhile, the story takes us to a field where the figures are conspicuous among the tall grasses, and the lightness of the moment is caught in the air, filling the scene with liveliness and merriment. Laughter and playfulness are reflected on the young man's face. His gestures are light and carefree, and mischief shines in his eyes. This world, despite all its dangers, is full of life and laughter. And here is the solution to their riddle. The young man cheerfully exclaims that he is only a playground guard. This unexpected remark sheds light on the true nature of his proposal, and at the same time emphasizes that in this world, the importance of a job is not always measured by its danger or difficulty. Zirka looks at him in surprise, her look saying that she didn't expect such a turn. Is that so? But it's a preparation for agricultural work, he explains, and his words change her perception of the situation, showing that often great things begin with the smallest of steps. The young man continues enthusiastically. Well, I guess it's a farm. He is sure that this particular job is the beginning of something bigger, and his optimism is contagious, opening up new horizons for them both. Zirka's gaze is full of bewilderment and skepticism. What did you said? Her words are harsh and full of disbelief. She can't believe that a proposal that seemed so serious is actually turning out to be so unusual and far from the dangers of her former life. The young man, without losing his optimism, reaffirms his words with a wide smile. He sees this work as not just taking care of children, but as part of something more meaningful, perhaps the beginning of a new era for his family and land. Then he adds, "Lately there have been more visitors here than usual." This explanation seems to be intended to show that the task he proposes, though seemingly simple, is of great importance to the society in which they live. On a city street, children are playing, their laughter and joyful cries filling the air. One of the adults watches them with a good-natured look, his eyes full of tenderness and care. The young man shares a serious thought as he ponders his words. They must not find out about this farm and the secret of sugar. His words are cryptic, and he seems to trust Zirka with a secret that is important to him and his lands. So, imagine someone here doesn't like the changes. How do you think they would act? He raises a question that hints at a hidden threat or possible obstacle they will have to overcome together. The young man's gaze stares off into the distance while Zirka listens to him, leaning back against the table. Despite the doubts she had initially felt, she now listened intently to his words, realizing that there was something more behind the simple suggestion. Zirka smiles, but in her smile you can read both the realization of risk and the possibility of feeling needed again. There's a glint in her eyes that heralds new adventures. The young man continues, and his eyes narrow at the mention. Especially our neighbor, Marquis Selvi. The name apparently carries the weight of history and conflict, giving Zirka and the young man a reason for future collaboration. Zirka takes the news of the Marquis of Selvi as a challenge, her eyes sparkling with battle excitement. So I'm here to deal with anyone Corellia attracts? She's already anticipating the action, ready to defend the farm from any threats. The young man nods, confident in his assessment. But I'm sure they'll come. I doubt there will be more than a dozen. He makes an assumption about the number of potential attackers, preparing for their arrival. He continues, when they start stealing and devouring, they will most likely disguise themselves as bandits. They will make a lot of noise and take everything that lies ill. This is a warning of possible enemy tactics, and Zirka realizes that her skills and experience will be needed in this new role. The young man's gaze is mysterious and evaluative, as if he is weighing the situation and anticipating possible outcomes. His one eye, visible from beneath his bangs, expresses confidence and anticipation of the challenges ahead. Zirka looks at him, her gaze full of determination and steadfastness. She is ready to become a protector and fighter, reflecting her inner spirit and character, a true warrior. And well, I suppose Selvi Dickibor will use drastic measures. She comments on the situation with a note of sarcasm and wit, not hiding her disdain for the Marquis and his methods. This statement betrays her willingness to confront any challenge that fate may present them. Zirka, leaning against the wall and closing her eyes as if gathering her strength before an important meeting, says, I need to talk to a few old buddies. This could mean that she is counting on support in the upcoming confrontation. She turns to the young man, her gaze serious. Say, boy, would you mind if I brought a little more people? Her offer to find allies shows that she sees her new role not just as a job, but as a mission. The young man turns to look at her, and his gaze is full of trust and approval. He is ready to accept her offer, and realizes that in the strength of unity is their common benefit and success. A young man stands before us, his face hidden by a mask, but his walk and posture radiate confidence and fearlessness. Even the king himself, his cry is full of challenge and determination, ready to fight any opponent. The world around seems calm and quiet, but the sight of the populated areas forebodes events that may be about to unfold. The wind blows lightly, ruffling the window curtains, and time seems to stand still in anticipation of the storm. And then a man appears with an unyielding look, his gaze hard and stern. "Come in," his word is short, but it is full of authority and power, promising the beginning of something significant and fateful. A man stands in a large room surrounded by bookshelves, his attention fully absorbed by the arrival. "I heard you called for me, Sir Dorn." His voice is confident and calm, his words ringing with authority and the expectation of serious conversation. His gaze is piercing and focused. In his eyes there is a depth of experience and wisdom that unequivocally indicates that before us is a man of power and decisions. He introduces himself, Thoris Leinbard. His name echoes around the room. It commands respect and at the same time reminds him of the greatness and antiquity of his family. Leinbard looks straight ahead, his gaze allowing no doubt. "You have been given a task, as you wish." He is ready to fulfill the assignment, his determination read in every feature of his face. The scene changes, and we see the trio amidst the daily bustle. Zerka expressing surprise, a young man busy preparing food, and their companion, who appears to be unfazed by what is happening. Leinbard, standing in a stern pose, said, "I need you to do something." His request sounded like an unmistakable demand, foreshadowing new trials and challenges for Zerka. Leinbard dismisses any formality. His words are sharp and direct. No simpler, just give the order. His determination and willingness to act without further ado speaks volumes about his character and attitude toward duty. In his profile, facing the darkness, one reads concentration and the intention to follow only clear and specific instructions, discarding all doubts. "I was prepared for this when I came here, Sir Dorn." Zerka's determination and willingness to meet the challenges ahead face to face, not shying away from the difficulties, reeks from those words. Leinbard's heavy gaze was pierced with seriousness. In a situation like this, the only outcome is death. If you fail, there is no help. His words carry no threat, just an unyielding acceptance of the harsh reality of their world, where every action has consequences and every choice can cost lives. He continues, and there is a firm determination in his words. "Then I will take only those who will be with me to the end." It is a pledge of loyalty and a demand for absolute dedication, a sign that there will be no room for hesitation or doubt in the coming battle. Leinbard's shadow shrouds him, emphasizing the importance of the moment and the weight of his words. In his eyes is a reflection of the destiny they will all soon meet, and he is ready to be the one to lead them through the darkness to the light of victory. A voice in space sounds regretful but firm. "I apologize for the inconvenience." These words are cut short, leaving room for action, speaking louder than any apology. The scene unfolds in a hallway where one man stands confidently, while the other sits on the floor, absorbed in his thoughts or perhaps the consequences of his decisions. Leinbard, his face as resolute and determined as ever, has no shadow of doubt in his eyes. He is ready to go forward, driven by a sense of duty and honor, despite all obstacles. Chaos reigns in the tavern. All the customers are shouting in confusion and admiration about something incredible. The words, "simply superb," burst out of one of them, while another, with fervor in his voice, continues, "Damn, made by the Mayo boss," or whatever his name is. The energy of the moment emanates from each symbol, wafting through the air, as if trying to capture the essence of their delight. The vivacious girl who sat at the table was in anticipation. Her eyes were full of excitement and mischief, and her smile was wide and infectious. She holds a fork in her hand, ready to begin her meal. There is a mask of joy and unconcealed appetite on her face, as if she were about to immerse herself in her favorite pastime, eating a meal made with love and skill. The scene changes, but the character remains the same. She now has a stack of documents in front of her, and her gaze is filled with surprise and slight embarrassment. Someone seemingly jokingly remarks, "Long time no see, Zirka. Have you put on a few extra pounds?" These words, like lightning, pierce the calm of the setting, adding a note of friendly teasing and human intimacy to the story. Tension soars to new heights when Zirka, squeezing her eyes into a thin line, replies in a disgruntled tone, "You say that again, and I'll break something for you." She pauses, deepening the weight of her words, and continues, "I didn't ask for your opinion." With each word, the air around her seems to grow heavier, and the strength of her character makes her resistance not only physical, but moral as well. The atmosphere changes dramatically when a group of disparate but confident people engage in a dialogue. "This concerns you all." The words hang in the air, suggesting the commonality of the situation in which they all find themselves. This is not just a challenge to one, it is a challenge to the whole collective, a demonstration that everyone here is part of a greater whole. One member of the group looks worried, his eyes wide open, and he utters, "How scary." His reaction may be sincere or it may be sarcastic, a delicate balance between the real danger and the irony of the situation they are all in together. The man's gaze is sharp and piercing. With confidence, he pronounces, "Well, the food is really not bad." His words sound like the truth, and the Yamaha name he carries adds weight to his judgment. He is like an arbiter of taste whose opinion is law to others. The young man replies with closed eyes and a happy smile, "It can't be helped." The name Missile seems to fit him well, for he sounds light and carefree, as if he agrees with what is going on around him and accepts it with joy. A woman with an enthusiastic look and a wide-open mouth exclaims, "Zirka is in fine form." The name Miranda under her portrait emphasizes her personality, as if she were the star of this gathering, bringing light and inspiration with her words. The gloomy gaze of the young man with the name Zell seems to hide many secrets. Is the only thing he utters, and it's a short purr that seems to load the space with mystery. His reticence and enigmatic timbre add intrigue to the overall atmosphere of the story. The word "and so" floating in the air seems to weigh down, heralding the beginning of an important statement or decision. It seems to be the introduction to a serious conversation or reflection, preparing the ground for the next words that could change the course of history. Two characters immersed in conversation exchange thoughts. "I feel like we're just gonna steal," one says, capturing the seriousness of the moment. The other, with a piece of meat on his fork, asks, "What war did you call our whole group to?" Their dialogue carries a sense of the adventure ahead, full of risk and opportunity. Jubilation and warmth take over the scene where a young girl with a wide smile says, "Oh yes, it's just beautiful." Her happy gaze is filled with gratitude for the current moment. Nearby, a man, radiant with joy, adds, "I'm glad I'm not freezing in the middle of the northern lands." Their words and emotions create an atmosphere of comfort and harmony. The view from above gives us a cozy corner of the feast where a group of friends have gathered together. "It would be stupid to hire people from other states," one of them reasons. "Good thing you guys didn't spread out too far." His words sound like an acknowledgement of the close ties that unite this unusual company. Finally, a man with a serious and demanding look turns to the others. "Can you explain what we are to do here?" His question carries the weight of expectation and demands specific answers, emphasizing the importance of the upcoming events for each member of this group. With a smile on her face, the girl explains the situation. "It's a very simple job. We're just guards on the farm. If everything goes well, we will be paid 3 gold pieces a month." Her optimism and lightheartedness are contagious. She sees the future in bright colors, anticipating an easy income and a good time. However, her enthusiasm is met with opposition. A man with a determined look and a loud exclamation, "That's not enough. I want at least 5. His discontent, and determination to fight for a higher fee emphasize his character, not inclined to compromise. The intrigue deepens when another man, gazing off into the distance, raises the question, "What's the secret?" The answer comes mysteriously. This farm has a busy secret. These words, spoken with innuendo, foreshadow that the guard's task may be far more difficult and dangerous than it first appears. An enigmatic smile appears on the girl's face as she asks, winking, "What do you say they manufacture sugar there?" Her words hint that the guard's task may involve something unexpected and possibly lucrative. The trio of listeners are stunned by her words. "What?" the man in the middle utters in amazement, while his companions look on with a mixture of bewilderment and curiosity. Their faces reflect the surprise at this turn and the intrigue this mysterious farm holds. Doubt is reflected in the other man's eyes as he warily asks, "Could this be a joke?" His suspiciousness shows that he is not inclined to take the information on faith. "What do you mean?" Her question emphasizes that she is ready to solve the mystery, but not without caution. The seriousness of the situation is emphasized by the girl's words. "There's a bunch of people hanging around, and right now they're trying like crazy to get information." Her expression is tense and her voice sounds determined, revealing the importance of the secret kept at the farm. Her gaze becomes even more intense as she confirms, this is no joke. There is not a shadow of doubt in her eyes. It is confirmation that they are on the threshold of something significant, and each of them realizes the magnitude of the task ahead. A proposal full of excitement arises. "We'll get 10 gold pieces for defeating his men and 20 if we take them alive." It's a bold plan, and his words ring out like a challenge. The readiness for action shines on their faces, each ready to take part in this risky venture. The tension in the air becomes palpable when one of the men persistently asks, "So who is he, our boss?" His tone emphasizes a willingness to learn the truth about whether their employer is worth the risk. In response, the woman says with a carefree smile and a light tone, "Our dear sister's son." Her words, imbued with irony, hang in the air, causing those around her to freeze in bewilderment at the suddenness of the revelation. A moment of pause comes when everyone is absorbing new information. All eyes are fixed on one point, and there is silence in the air. Then, after a small eternity, the question is heard. "Really? Really?" echoes in the room, and everyone tries to figure out how this new detail will change their plans and relationships in this unexpected adventure. A secluded farm, surrounded by rolling hills resting on the horizon, opens up before my eyes. The silence of the place is broken only by the sound of approaching footsteps and cries, heralding the group's imminent arrival. Everything around is full of different movements. A group of friends, laughter and fun fill the air as they rush forward. Their faces glow with happiness and anticipation of adventure, which adds lightness and optimism to the overall atmosphere. One of the guys, with arms spread wide and a smile, asks, "Are they really coming?" His question is full of hope and anticipation of the encounter, while the others look ahead to where their next adventure should unfold. A young man with a sword in his hands hanging in the air pondered thoughtfully. "How many times in the last 10 years do you think the North has asked King Horeli to declare war?" His question is seemingly rhetorical, but it reflects the deep political games that swirl around their world. Calmness and confidence come from another character when he responds to the question, "I can't see why you would think that." His reasoning and gratitude for the help offered, "Thank you," here demonstrates his willingness to accept help and work as a team. The words are filled with respect and nobility. "Do not underestimate the security of our domain. Was it easy for you to get here yourself?" This question emphasizes the dangers they faced and the importance of vigilance in their unstable world. The forest thicket in front of us, the place is quiet, and seems like a forgotten world. Their best opportunity to attack is to send a small group through the northern forests, the voice ponders, while the image conveys the sense of loneliness that reigns among the old trees. Now the strategic conversation opens. "This is the perfect place for a small group to invade," one of the characters says confidently, his tone hinting at experience and knowledge of the territory. "Really?" asks another, his interest suggesting a readiness for action. The woman said with determination in her voice, "But it's going to be pretty hard to fight them and protect these children at the same time." Her words carry the care and responsibility she feels as a leader, signaling the weight of the task ahead of them. The plan begins to take shape when one of them says, "All we need is information after all." His words emphasize the importance of intelligence and preliminary data to the success of their mission. Optimism and cunning can be read in the young man's words. "I assume they will invite for the children last. Then they'll come after me." His confidence and tactical thinking promise to lead them to victory. The heat of passion reaches a climax when another man with his fist raised upward declares, "That's what I don't understand. I want to know what you're capable of, puppy." This is a challenge and a call to action that clearly shows that it is time to move from words to action. Emotions overwhelm the woman as she shouts, "Hey, Yamaha!" Her face is contorted with a scream that beats a true battle cry, ready for action and defense of her beliefs and comrades. The action escalates when the group faces sudden danger. Their figures flicker amid an explosion of action, each moving with the determination and speed needed in battle. There is a fight between them, where one character attacks with force, his movements precise and decisive. It is a moment of clash, where every blow can be decisive, and each of them is determined to prove their strength and skill. Boldness and defiance are read on the man's face as he asks, "Is that the best you can do, child?" His expression is full of confidence and dominance, as if he already knows the answer to that question. The other character's answering gaze is no less determined. He is focused and ready to respond. His gaze is filled with determination and strength. He is not going to give in. A woman throws in the midst of battle, "Yamaha, look at your armor first." Her words are as if a challenge and a reminder that in battle, it's not just pressure that matters, but defense as well, and everyone must be prepared for sudden changes. Surprise and disbelief are reflected on the man's face as he says, "What the hell are you talking about?" His reaction to the warning about the armor is a mixture of bewilderment and doubt, as if he can't believe his protection could fail. The man backs away, dodging the blow. His movements are quick and instinctive, a reflex embodied in an instant reaction to an unexpected threat. The woman then continues with seriousness, "When the young master attacked, he stabbed you in the blind spot with a skewer in such a way that you didn't even notice it." She observed the situation and sees what escaped his attention, emphasizing the importance of awareness and mindfulness in combat. Insight and fear freeze in the man's eyes as he realizes the seriousness of the words. If he wanted to kill you, just imagine. The reality of the possibility of his own vulnerability pierces him, forcing him to rethink the situation. A silence full of tension hovers between the two characters. One of them whispers, "Shh," thus suggesting that they remain calm and collect their thoughts in the face of imminent danger. Finally, determination and decision-making vibrate in the air when the man declares, "Okay, I've lost." His willingness to accept the challenge and move forward despite defeat demonstrates his courage and determination to face whatever challenges stand in his way. Lightness and relief fill the atmosphere when the girl says, "Surprisingly, he's honest." Her words show respect for a man who, despite everything, remains true to his word. The intrigue increases when the man, hearing these words, turns around with the question, His gaze is full of bewilderment and interest in what is happening, ready to learn more about the situation. The man pensively ponders, what's going on out there? His reasoning and reluctance to engage in conflict reveal the deep humanity of the character, who seeks understanding rather than blindly following orders. In the middle of a lively discussion, one girl shrieks in bewilderment, not hiding her irritation. Her words are sharp and full of reproach. She accuses her interlocutor of betraying her principles. After all, she was once not averse to sending horn messages to princes. In response, the other, with visible disdain, pushes her away, saying that she needs to meet the buyer in person to be sure of him. She is even willing to travel the road with the ballad to meet the mysterious stranger. The excited girl approaches Balud with an affectionate exclamation and an enthusiastic look. Her hands reach for the old woman with the promised gift. Tension is replaced by warmth and comfort, and a young maid stands nearby, bewildered and curious, observing the scene and inquiring about the essence of what is happening. A young man who seems a bit confused and bewildered. His face expresses surprise and bewilderment at the sight of the object in his hands. The man's answering look, full of questioning, only reinforces the sense of confusion. The misunderstanding between the two characters creates an atmosphere of waiting for the mystery to be solved. Happiness and delight take over the characters' faces as they look up. Their eyes reflect joy and wonder, and the sounds around them seem to turn to music. "Wow," one of them exclaims, as if trying to capture the fullness of his emotions, while the smiles of the others show that what is happening is beyond their expectations. The mysterious object, the object of admiration and conversation, is finally revealed. It is a biscuit of such delicacy and airiness that even the very sight of it causes the heroes to marvel. "Don't they look beautiful?" asks a question that emphasizes the flawlessness of these sweets. "Ah, superb," confirms another, as if sensing the taste of perfection on the tip of his tongue beforehand. A woman with a serene smile and open joy on her face talks about starting school, dreaming of learning new things. Her optimism and desire to learn hang in the air like invisible notes. She even suggests to her interlocutor to rely on her, which shows her confidence and support. And, as if jokingly, she notes that someone else is already perfectly prepared, adding lightness and playfulness to her words. And then the attention turns to the man who, seeing the object of desire, cannot refrain from exclaiming, "I want some." His sudden desire is so strong that he seems ready to rush toward his cherished goal right now. The intrigue of novelty and the opportunity to try something unexplored hangs in the air, giving the scene a spirit of adventure and discovery. A boy with enthusiasm in his eyes and a huge knife in his hands speaks of his intention to cut something, while two adults observe his enthusiasm with some concern and undisguised surprise. He confidently declares that he has tamed it, which makes one wonder about the nature of his occupation. A guy thanks a girl named Selena for providing exotic treats, apparently colorful and unusual for their world. His gratitude and gestures emphasize his nobility. Guy seems pleased and ready to repeat the experience, suggesting that it was an adventure for him. The young girl with the animal ears looks surprised and a little confused. Her facial expressions and words, "It's wonderful that you came here," are shrouded in mystery and anticipation, which adds intrigue to the story and hints at a hidden history between the characters. Two warrior girls in armor are discussing the dangers ahead. One of them warns the other that it's going to be a bit dangerous here, and advises against coming here next week. Her comrade looks shocked by this revelation. The boy explains the reason for his concern. Stray dogs have appeared in the mountains and pose a threat. His serious expression and determination emphasize the importance of the situation, which requires immediate action. One of the girls grudgingly suggests that the city guards should be held responsible for the situation, while the other, looking on, expresses doubts about their effectiveness. Their interaction shows the contrast between practicality and idealism. The boy decisively declares that they can handle the problem themselves, rejecting the offer to enlist the help of the guards. His self-confidence and desire to act on his own make him the natural leader of the group. One of the girls, with concern in her eyes, asks them not to act so recklessly, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation and her excitement about the possible consequences of their actions. The other girl, with stubbornness in her voice, insists on her own, objecting to the proposed caution. Her determination not to give in to danger without a fight emphasizes the character's character and youthful vigor. The girl fighting the unknown threat is confident in her abilities, claiming they are definitely in love with her, which adds a comic touch to a tense moment. All around her are the sounds of fighting, and her comrades seem puzzled. The guy suddenly realizes the gravity of the situation, his face contorted with fear. Apparently, they have encountered an enemy far more powerful than they expected, causing him to rethink his resolve. His angry face and the words, "Damn, sooner than I expected. The alarm is coming from the north," expresses the urgency of the situation and the upcoming battle, which may prove decisive for their entire group. Amidst the snow-capped mountains and dense forest, a village lies peacefully hidden, but an anxious expectation hovers around it. The quiet landscape introduces the element of waiting before the storm, when every moment of silence portends impending danger. Mysterious sounds can be heard deep into the forest, where branches and roots intertwine, to create an almost impenetrable wall. The gloomy atmosphere and silence of the forest seem to breathe tension and a premonition of trouble. Mysterious figures in cloaks and hoods line up side by side, forming an eerie picture. Their faces are hidden and their bodies are motionless, as if they are waiting for the signal to act. All this creates a sense of imminent confrontation. Atop an island cliff looking out over the vast distances stands a figure preoccupied with changes that have yet to take place. The words "Balud has awakened" bring to mind a new chapter in their journey, and an impending awakening or challenge. The character stares off into the distance, pondering his reasons for being abroad. Despite a premonition of evil, he remains at his post, showing his fortitude and determination to stand to the end. The girl's face shows determination and discontent, perhaps because of the delay or obstacles that are interfering with her plans. Her gaze is determined and ready for action, despite the inevitable difficulties. It's a dark night, with only the moon illuminating a scene of intense pursuit in the woods, where every shadow can hide friend or foe. The sounds of the character's footsteps and breathing resonate in the silence, creating a sense of the inevitability of their meeting. The eerie outlines of the trees witness a stealthy operation or escape. Light figures, perhaps pursuers or allies, move between the trunks like ghosts maneuvering in a game of survival. The battle is sudden, and every move can be decisive. The power and tension of the moment are breathtaking, and the outcome of the battle remains unknown until the last moment. The masked face hidden behind the cloak foreshadows something sinister. His gaze is concentrated and piercing, and the mysterious symbols around him add intrigue to his image and intentions. The figure standing beside her allies gives a command, signifying that the goal of their march is almost achieved. Her voice certainly inspires authority and confidence in her subordinates. One of the followers expresses fatigue and a desire to complete the long march, his words reflecting the general exhaustion of the group. The leader, however, insists on vigilance, sensing the importance of the events to come. The cloaked woman stares at the distant lands, contemplating the need to flee from behind them before the real need comes. Her gaze is weary but resolute, and the words, "Magat, silver, glow, Magat now guards the border," indicate a deep sense of duty to her homeland. The hooded figure clutches something in his hand, reminding him not to miss a single chance. The determination written on his face and the anticipation of an important event captures the imagination. In a forest thicket where light and shadows are woven together, a group of figures, led by a cloaked woman, prepare for the unknown. Their postures are full of intent and action, ready for the challenges ahead. The speed and power of the hooded warrior's movement leading the attack is felt in every line of the image. The sword in his hand is an extension of his determination, and the dynamics of the scene are breathtaking. The character's gaze is focused, and his face reflects the tension of the moment. He is ready for battle, and his determination is evident in every feature. A shout of "Over there!" directs attention somewhere in the woods where a target or danger may have hidden. The group obeys its leader's instructions, ready to follow him into the unknown. The strength and power of the warrior in the foreground is felt in his every movement. Standing on an elevated position, he dominates the space, ready for decisive action. The character's words, "And you're more capable than I realized," but carry an acknowledgement of respect for the opponent, but also a foreshadowing of a new challenge or unexpected turn of events. In a flashback, when the sword meets the target, the warrior may have achieved his goal, declaring that, "My 10 gold pieces I have earned," which may indicate the completion of a task or the achievement of a milestone. The appearance of doubt in the words 10 zlotus, "What do you mean?" indicates a misunderstanding or underestimation of the situation on the part of one of the characters, which adds an element of surprise to the story. The figure in the distance, with his back to the viewer, seems to emphasize the expectation of a new development, yet to be unraveled. The words about a stone smeared with a paralyzing poison that acts instantly, and the question, how is he, introduce a new twist to the story, where every action has important consequences, and the results of those actions are already being felt. The cloaked figure addresses the defeated opponent with a question full of sarcasm and confidence in his victory, which emphasizes his dominant position. The defeated warrior lying on the ground responds with a sneer, asking to leave the battlefield. His smirk between words shows a defiant spirit, even in the face of defeat. The solemn "okay" sounds like an acknowledgement of the adversary, and perhaps the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship, where respect and honor play a key role. An ominous peak protrudes from the ground, as if symbolizing an impending trial or dark menace awaiting the heroes ahead. The voices from the forest emphasize the gravity of the moment. No one will come to help, and standing to the end is the only way. The words emphasize the desperation and determination of the group. The characters in the forest, among whom one appears wounded, accept the inevitability of their fate. Their calmness and acceptance of their circumstances suggest a deep connection and understanding between them. The realization that they have already been spotted entails the recognition that the mystery is gone, and now what matters most is the information they were able to learn earlier. Allies draw conclusions about next steps, prepared for new challenges. The fatigue and tension echo in the words of one of them that there is no more point in hiding. It is an acknowledgement of the inevitability of the next step and a preparation for the final act of their assignment. The word "go" emphasizes their determination to go for the breakthrough, despite the risks. The group comes together for joint action, ready to face what lies ahead. The heroes have a view of vast fields in front of them, which heralds a new stage of their journey. The wind plays with the grass, and the horizon calls them to the next challenge. One of the characters shouts, pointing at the mirage, "Yamaha has had his revenge. Now it's their turn." You can hear the excitement in his words, ready for another battle. He is sure that if he is to be believed here, there must be 12 of them, suggestive of a prophecy or lore coming to life before them. The leader's command sounds like an order. "All right, spread out on you, and boss, get those kids and those girls away from here." These words show concern and a need to protect the more vulnerable members of their community in the face of an impending threat. One of the characters sarcastically remarks that they are not worth less, emphasizing their underestimation by their opponents. The mistrust and defiance in his words become apparent. A loud call of, "Miranda, cover us, Gyad," fills the air with tension. The heroine apparently has an important skill or ability that can provide protection for the group at a critical moment. Focus and determination are read on the archer's face as he calls out, "Rely on me." His readiness for action and confidence in his abilities give the team confidence in the face of danger. The rapid fall of the bodies, as if undermined by an invisible force, is captured in a moment of tension and drama. This moment is frozen in the air, and time seems to slow down. A cry of despair breaks the silence, mirroring the pain and horror of the sudden attack that interrupts the fight without warning. One of the warriors, struck by surprise, still tries to fight, but his efforts seem futile in the face of an unknown threat. This is the epitome of courage and desperation at the most critical moment of the battle. A close-up of the hand clutching the arrow and the intense gaze through the archer's mask promise an imminent continuation of the fight. His readiness and accuracy could be decisive in the coming battle. Amidst the whirlwind of events, the heroine calls out to her comrades, urging them to hold the enemy until reinforcements come to their aid. The energy and determination of her command spurs the team into action. The light illuminating the people running and the shadows pouncing on them create a sense of impending climax, where every step could lead to salvation or death. A glance through the archer's mask fixes the target, and the shouts of the comrades, "There they are," mark a new phase of the confrontation. Everyone is ready for the decisive battle, and every moment is filled with tension. A group of warriors rush forward in a fighting spirit, united by a common drive and purpose. Their synchronized action and determination create a powerful dynamic as they bravely meet their destiny. Laughter and the battle cry of "push them back" diffuse the tension, demonstrating not only the readiness for battle, but also the cohesiveness of the team, whose strength lies in their mutual support and trust in each other. A whirlwind of battle engulfs the warriors, led by a mighty leader leading them forward. The bravery of their actions paints an epic scene of a clash, where every blow can change the outcome of the battle. The calmness and confidence in the eyes of one of the warriors contradicted the chaos around him. His "good luck to you" sounds like a farewell or blessing before a great test. The deep bond between the comrades is expressed in the words, "We shall rest together again in the next life." Friendship. These are words of farewell, a promise, or simply peace with one's own fate in the face of the inevitable. The fall of the warrior, as if plunged off a cliff, is captured in a moment of absolute despair. Time seems to have stopped waiting for the outcome of his fate. Horror and the realization of betrayal grips one of the characters. Holy shit, they've been planning this all along. He realizes that their enemies have always been one step ahead. The last words, "I'm sorry, boss, just hang in there," are full of determination and sacrifice. One can sense in this confession a desperate struggle for the life and protection of his comrades. He stood before the unknown challenge, eyes widened with horror and bewilderment. "Underestimated Selvi," he muttered, realizing that a mistake could have cost him everything. The echoes of his last words were still echoing in his ears as he thought he had messed up. The uncertainty made his heart beat faster, fear growing with each beat. Meanwhile, in the shadows, his opponent only frowned, hidden beneath a mask of equanimity. But those men are clearly as good as knights, he pondered, assuming his opponent had mistaken them for common mercenaries. There was a flicker of recognition in his eyes of respect for an enemy that was not an easy opponent. And then, in a flash of insight, the young warrior realized that the root of all his failures lay within. "It's all my pride," he whispered under his breath. It was an admission that his self-confidence had prevented him from seeing the truth, and now it was his biggest battle. With the two girls behind him, his duty was becoming clear. "Must protect them," he told himself firmly, while they looked at him, filled with fear and hope. Their appreciative looks strengthened his resolve. "But at least I must try," he admitted as he prepared for battle. The battle scene was unfolding before him, sword in hand. He stood between innocence and impending danger. With every movement, every swing, he fended off the blows, standing in defense of those behind him. The fight was no small matter, but he did not waver. The enemy he faced was unlike any he had encountered before. With confidence and equanimity, he uttered, "Pass by and you won't get hurt." The sound of his voice, "Ta-am," echoed across the battlefield, promising an imminent clash. The boy's gaze flashes with unyielding determination as he shouts to his opponent that under no circumstances will he allow him to gain the upper hand. His words carry the weight of a final vow, an oath he intends to fulfill when faced with stark inevitability. The opponent, a huge man with a sword, despite the threat, does not stop and prepares a powerful strike. His determination is also unwavering, and he is willing to do anything to achieve his goal, even if it means fighting the young adversary to the end. Dibalud, despite the strong opponent, was determined. The guy was choosing the best plan of attack to win. His eyes, full of determination and courage, stared through the fluttering fabric of his cloak. His eyes, full of determination and courage, stared through the fluttering fabric of his cloak. An icy shock ran through his body when he saw that the stone, the symbol of his mission, had split apart. The stone! His thoughts turned into a scream, reflected in every shard of shattered hope. A blast of pain and surprise reverberated in his dilated pupils as shards of stone flew around him. That moment was a turning point, the beginning of inevitable change. The bitterness of defeat reflected on his anguish-stained face as he realized all was lost. "Damn it, he's just disappeared," he muttered, barely holding himself back from despair. The darkness around him was like a reflection of his thoughts. "But now it is clear as day that I must accept it," he mumbled, gripping the hilt of his sword tightly. "I thought I could use him as a prisoner." His thoughts were full of determination. Gathering his strength, he knelt amidst the devastation that the vanished enemy had left behind. It was the moment of truth, when he had to find the strength to start over. His gaze dropped to the rubble of stone, and realization flashed through his mind. "Aha, so he's aiming for my feet," he whispered, realizing his opponent's cunning. His eyes suddenly reflected fear. "But you're not the commander." Could his words be an admission of his own weakness? "In this battle, you're just a pawn." His heart sank at the betrayal. And then from the depths of the shadows came the one he thought had disappeared. The enemy's silhouette was gone in a flash, leaving behind only a trace of his presence. An explosion rang out across the battlefield. The ground shook and silhouettes flew into the air, surrounded by screams and chaos. A moment later, the world was quiet again. Two voices exclaimed in horror, breaking the silence. "Baka! Young Master Baka!" Horror and bewilderment distorted their faces while they realized that they had witnessed something inexplicable. The one who had just fought stood back with an impenetrable expression on his face. "If you hadn't put your hand up, blocking my attack," his words were cold and judicious as he looked at the consequences of his action. The figure on the ground lay motionless, facing the heavens, and his voice, weak and tired, sounded like an echo. "But you can't fight anymore. Your sacrifice allowed you to survive." The man lying on the ground looked up full of despair and whispered, "This is the end," realizing the gravity of his situation. The echo of his words reverberated in the air as two voices swept over the battlefield, sounding in unison. Young Master Baka." The hope of salvation resounded in their voices. Horror and amazement froze on the faces of the two companions as they involuntarily witnessed the unthinkable danger. Time seemed to stand still for them for that brief but infinitely long moment. He turned toward them, shrouded in a cloak that fluttered like the very embodiment of determination and strength. His eyes were full of an unwavering calmness that inspired fear and admiration. And then, in the heart of the chaos, he spoke without turning around. "You will come with me." His tone was peremptory, and his words were not only threatening, but unexpectedly caring. Despair clutched their throats as they pleaded, "Baka, at least move. This can't be. Young Master, save me. Young Master." The body on the ground remained motionless, as if refusing to obey the orders carried with each desperate cry for it. And in the shadows, hiding her face, lurked a figure shrouded in darkness and power. Her eyes glittered in the darkness, full of unknown energy and mystery. A vague premonition seized him, and he whispered, "What is it, this feeling?" A smile full of secret knowledge slid across his lips, heralding a change in the game that was just beginning. And understanding flashed in his eyes, a realization of the depth of the situation they were all caught up in. The events that had just unfolded were but a prologue to the ordeal to come. In the darkness of the void, he stands alone, protecting his heart, but the voice of his inner monologue breaks the silence. "The hand is so heavy. Give me my women back." A bright smile blossoms on the faces of the family gathered together. Their gazes are full of love and understanding, drawing a contrast between the warmth of human connection and the coldness of the previous scene. For the last picture, unfortunately, I am unable to provide a description due to a technical error. The giant's loud laughter cuts through the air, his powerful blow aimed at his diminutive foe. But he stands firm like a mountain in the face of a storm. The villain's countenance is contorted with triumph. He utters the contemptuous words, "Come on," as he summons the fight, savoring the anticipation of battle. However, with the grace and precision of a warrior, our hero dodges the deadly blow, his movements clear and decisive, ready to strike back. The taut string of tension bursts when the swords of the hero and his enemy meet in battle, sparks from their steely greeting flying in all directions. Their blades clash with a rumble that makes the air shake, each trying to outdo the other in strength and skill, fighting for the advantage. "Brr," he shouted, gathering all his spirit and might in that battle cry while his opponent seems unfazed despite the fury of the attack. The force of the blow blasts the ground and the hero is weightless for a moment, his enemy only watching, assessing the consequences of his action. A smile plays across the girl's face and she winks slyly as if to say, "Damn it, Miranda, stay out of this." But there is mischief and insolence in her eyes. The four warriors stand side by side, each with an expression ranging from determination to surprise, their faces speaking of the many stories and untold battles that unite them. The seriousness and determination is reflected on his face as he says, "We're not going to let you pass, no matter what happens." His words carry the weight of centuries of warfare and an unyielding spirit. The girl looks off into the distance, her gaze full of alarm, and she cautions, "Lively bastards. It'll be bad if we start a looking glass." Her warning echoes among them, filled with anxiety about the future. Meanwhile, his silhouette reaches for the sword aloofly. He can change the code of battle. This torso is clearly the strongest among them. His thoughts are hidden, but a pulsing intent to change the course of the battle is visible in his hands. With a radiant smile, he lies weightlessly in the void of his dreams, reminding everyone, "The difference between us is too great. Even though the boss is cool, he's still a kid." A man with a wistful look that hides the depth of his experience confesses, "I should think about escape routes." The figure hovering in the air, as if separated from reality, gives the image a certain carelessness and detachment from earthly concerns. He floats in the void, resigned to the inevitable. "It's like they're gone and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't feel my arms or legs." Through the whirlwind of motion and chaos, his thought penetrates. "Is it over for me?" The invisible struggle with fate seems complete. His eyes are closed, his face hidden by a wave of hair, but his inner gaze is filled with determination and acceptance. "Seriously, seriously. I can't protect you." There is tension in the air. Two warriors stand face to face, their gazes intertwined in a silent challenge. Among them is a girl with braids, hanging upside down as if she were a prisoner of this silent confrontation. Her eyes are closed, and she appears to be a victim not only of the battle, but also of deeper and darker games played out in the shadows. The young man with a grin on his face looks visibly annoyed. The text around him is like thorns reflecting his mood. "Damn it, when are they going to stop torturing my poor detectives?" These are words full of sarcasm and frustration, signaling a deep contempt for someone else's incompetence, or perhaps for the enemies who threaten his allies. The old man seems wise, his face adorned with wrinkles and his eyes concealing 1,000 stories. In a stern tone he asks, "You have found a fine opponent, so why don't you fight him?" His words suggest a test or a task to be accomplished. The old man, perhaps a teacher or mentor, demands overcoming fear and facing the battle ahead. The warrior's heart flutters in the face of battle. His gaze is full of determination and power. He knows that these moments make him live more fully, feel every beat of his pulse. His posture is ready to fight, and he no longer sees any obstacles in his way. The wind encompasses everything around the man, standing amidst flying leaves and mysterious symbols. He embodies the calmness in the eye of the hurricane, ready to meet his destiny. His figure, surrounded by signs, seems to embody the path of a warrior, unyielding and full of challenges. The gaze of the woman following the man is filled with concentration and steadfastness. She may be his companion or protector, but together they form a whole, united by a common goal. Despite the obvious difficulties of their journey, she does not retreat, following, ready to support him in any challenge. The man's face is filled with doubt and determination. His eyes read the important question, has he risen? Perhaps he is referring to a rival or comrade who must rise to accept a challenge or continue a battle in which each participant has a role to play. A cry of despair and fear breaks the silence. "Don't force yourself, Balud. Young master, please run." The words, full of panic and anxiety, sound like a final call to action, perhaps a warning of impending danger that must be avoided immediately. Finally, the warrior's prayer to the gods favor me, and hope which speaks of his inner strength and faith in his own strength. Once again, I will be able to set foot on the battlefield. These words express his readiness to fight and his faith in his destiny, regardless of the outcome. The hand clutches the sword with firmness and determination, ready for action. This gesture embodies strength of will and willingness to stand up in battle, despite the fatigue or fear that would overpower anyone else. The laughter and battle cry reflect the unwavering spirit of the warrior hiding his face behind the mask. "Come," he calls, inviting his opponent to accept the challenge. There is no doubt in his stance, only defiance and the genuine exhilaration of the coming fight. The man's gaze is full of challenge and self-assurance. "State your name," he demands, unwilling to fight a nameless opponent. It is a demand of respect for the rules of honor, where even in battle the dignity and knowledge of the one to be faced is preserved. The young man's face reflects fatigue and pain, but in his gaze you can read the adamancy. "Sadatoshi Okasanai," he says, answering the challenge, introducing himself before the battle. His name sounds like music to his opponent's ears, heralding the beginning of a serious confrontation. Emotions overwhelm the girl. Cries of "oh" and "ah" burst out of her, as if she were reliving someone else's pain or feeling a deep connection to a name spoken earlier. Perhaps that name has a special meaning to her. Maybe it's the name of someone close to her. The man with the sword in his hands, the embodiment of determination and strength, says, "That's the name the girl shouted. Be sure I'll remember it." His words are cut short, but the intention is clear. He will remember the name that was spoken with such emotion, and it will add to his strength in the coming battle. The two warriors stand at a distance from each other, separated not only by space but also by a silent understanding palpable in the air. The signs around them are like symbols of their unspoken thoughts, mysterious and incomprehensible to the outsider's eye. The man with the sword in his hands pensively ponders, he has only a knife, then what is he up to? His opponent, armed with a less powerful weapon, does not seem to be such an easy opponent, for true strength is not always in weapons, but in skill and skill. He looks at his opponent, pondering his words. I could just disregard his words and go home, but the warrior ponders, interrupted by the possibly unspoken thought that leaving is not an option. Perhaps he said to approach him because he is unable to move anymore. A suggestion of the enemy's condition that could change the course of the fight. The warrior's eyes read an inner conflict. Like Richard, I can't leave it like this. How can I ignore such provocation? His own words and name as if summoning his honor and duty, not allowing him to retreat in the face of the challenge. The warrior's movement is swift and decisive. He rushes forward into the heart of the battle, where every moment can be decisive. This moment is full of tension, and the outcome of the battle hangs in the balance. He raises his sword, preparing to strike. There is concentration and precision in his every movement, as if he is preparing himself for the decisive moment that will determine the entire course of the battle. The opponent's sword stroke is filled with power and determination. His every movement radiates danger and skill. Such an opponent makes no mistakes. His blows are precise and deadly. The man with the sword responds with his movement, his gaze focused and his resolve unwavering. He will not allow himself to retreat or lose. His every gesture speaks of his unwillingness to give up. The battle is in full swing. The swords of the warriors meet in a dance of battle where every next moment could be the last. Neither of them is willing to yield, each striving to gain the upper hand in this battle of will and strength. The warrior's eyes read more than surprise. It's like you're a completely different person. His words may reflect surprise at changes in an opponent who may have exceeded expectations or shown unprecedented skill. The young warrior holding his sword with confidence reflects his inner thoughts. The end, who has knowledge but lacks experience, has disappeared. In his place, the experienced warrior stands before him, making no unnecessary movements. This is a recognition of the growth and development that occurs through battle and adversity. The battle continues, and a struggle unfolds between the two warriors, not only physically but psychologically as well. They both realize that every next moment could be a defining moment, and neither wants to miss their chance. The sharpened senses of a warrior on the brink of battle. Doesn't it feel wonderful? Words filled with the adrenaline of the moment, reflecting a deep connection to the fighting spirit that animates him in the thick of battle. In the distance, a warrior stands alone among the snow and rocks, his silhouette like a symbol of loneliness and determination. This will to live, this determination to die, this world passes to the dead. He understands the cost of life and death, knows that battle is more than mere survival. It is a dance on the edge of peaceful life and eternal nothingness. The laughter of a skeleton in a fighting stance, like a challenge to all living things. Those who live peaceful lives will never understand this. His words proclaim that only through struggle, through the experience of living on the edge of death, can one truly understand and appreciate life. To fight is to live, to die, to have fun. With a wide grin on his face, the warrior shouts, "Let's have some fun, young man." His voice is infused with enthusiasm, and he is ready to face whatever trials the battle brings with ease and joy. They rush into action again, their movements as swift as gusts of wind, creating swirls of snow around them. This spurt into action is a sign of true combat excitement. The clash of swords sparks fire, each blow a test of strength and skill. In this clash, one can clearly sense not only the desire to win, but also the enjoyment of the process of battle itself. The warrior's sword slices through the air as he approaches the decisive blow. His gaze is focused, and his fighting spirit never fades, even at the most critical moment. The force of the clash of swords creates an explosion of light, symbolizing the clash not only of steel, but also of the will of the two warriors. In this moment of battle, time seems frozen, and the outcome of the battle unpredictable. The enemy's gaze is full of unpredictability and cunning, as if he already sees the outcome of the battle, which we cannot yet guess. His smile is an enigma that portends more than just a thirst for victory. The young warrior's eyes sparkle with courage and daring. He is full of determination and fighting spirit. His smile leaves no doubt about his mood. He is ready for battle, and confident. The opponent recognizes the strength of his opponent. "Frankly, I'd like to delay victory." His words may be an acknowledgement of respect for the young warrior or an expression of strategic calculation. The answer comes immediately, "Indeed." The young warrior accepts this challenge, ready to continue the battle. His short answer expresses not only agreement, but eagerness for battle. The forces of the warriors collide in the last and most decisive blow. It ends now. This shout is full of confidence in the imminent end of the battle, where every next moment could be the last. The moment of tension when the swords are about to meet freezes in the air. It is the moment when time stands still. The outcome of the battle remains unknown. The opponent's eyes reflect the intensity of the moment. In them, you can see concentration, perhaps even fear of the inevitable outcome of the fight. Their movements merge in a frenzied rhythm of battle, where each blow could be the last. A whirlwind of emotion and steely will is in the air as the swords meet in a final dance. Their gazes crossed, reflecting the fire of battle that blazed in the eyes of both warriors. The tension is at its peak, their gazes filled with determination and anticipation. Once again, the young warrior's sword cuts through space, aimed straight at the heart of the battle. This movement is the culmination of the entire battle, the last chord in the symphony of steel and spirit. Surprise and bewilderment are reflected on the opponent's face as he realizes the outcome of the battle. His opponent's retreat leaves him confused and in doubt, presumably about his next move. He recognizes his opponent's skill by saying, "Not bad, young man." These words carry respect for the young warrior's skills and spirit, recognizing his dignity and strength. As the young warrior walks away, he says thoughtfully, "War is really fun." His words perhaps reflect mixed feelings, both the joy of battle and the burden of understanding its seriousness and consequences. The word "tuk" bursts out from the young warrior, perhaps an expression of frustration or bewilderment at the unexpected turn in the battle that has taken its toll on the fight. The opponent looks after him, acknowledging, "That was fun." This is a farewell to the battle accompanied by respect for the confrontation and recognition of its importance to both participants. The young warrior steps back as he leaves the battlefield, his figure reflecting the fatigue and satisfaction of a battle well fought. His stance reads calm after the storm of battle, a sign that he is ready for whatever fate brings him next. Releasing from the tension after the battle, the opponent pays tribute to the moment. A truly magnificent fight. In his words, there is respect for the past confrontation and its exceptionality. The footsteps of the departing warrior echo on the empty battlefield, leaving behind only the memories of the past battle. The post-battle world finds its silence again. The young warrior turns around, his full of bewilderment and reflection. Perhaps he is pondering the words he has spoken or the road ahead of him, still to be traveled after this fight. The young warrior, looking down at his hand with regret, admits, "That's not bad." His words perhaps reflect an admission of his own mistakes, or respect for the level of the opponent who was able to hurt him so badly. As he steps back, he looks around at the empty battlefield, leaving the echoes of the battle behind him. The sounds of his footsteps dissolve into silence, leaving room for reflection and recovery from the tumultuous events. His last words, "I leave it all to you," may signify a transfer of duty or mission to his adversary, or a farewell to a confrontation in which he has found a worthy opponent. The young warrior, as if freed from the weight of the battle, leans back with ease. His young man is perhaps an address to himself or an unseen interlocutor, a reflection of his inner state after the battle. Despite the past confrontation, he now faces a new challenge. Really? The boss won. These may be the words of an ally or a spectator expressing surprise and delight at recent events. "This can't be. Taurus is dead?" Exclamations of disbelief and shock at what seemed impossible. It could be a sign that the battle had brought an unexpected twist, turning the warrior's perceptions of strength and capabilities upside down. The characters exchange thoughts about their situation. "There's only one thing left for us to do," begins one, recognizing that options are limited. "Without Taurus, we have no chance of victory," finishes another man, emphasizing the importance of his comrade to the success of their pursuits. The energetic shouts of the warriors fill the space. "We will show you the spirit of chivalry," demonstrating a steadfastness of spirit and a willingness to fight to the end, despite any obstacles. The group of characters portray a lively scene with a common cry of, "Ah, great, don't let anyone get away." They seem determined and enthusiastic, ready to meet the next challenges together as one strong team. The loss of Taurus had a profound effect on the knights. The battle reached its climax when one of the warriors, overcome by despair and pain, in a last effort repelled his opponent's blow. Left unprotected in the face of death, his gaze, full of determination and fear, awaited the inevitable. They didn't resist for long. The energy of the clash dissipated into the air as the young warrior broke through the enemy's defenses with incredible agility and strength. His movements were lightning fast and precise, as if he himself were a weapon wielded out of a desire to defeat and protect. All they had to do was die handsomely. The fight continued with unrelenting fury, each blow echoing in the hearts of the combatants. The one who had begun as a knight now faced a choice: to live for the kingdom or to die with dignity to meet his fate. Suddenly she appeared on the battlefield, a whirlwind in battle, lightning fast and irresistible. Her sword whistled through the air, reflecting the rays of the sun like stars twinkling in the midday sky. She was like hope, instantly piercing the hearts of allies and shining terror among enemies. In the end, the battle ended a chance before sunset. The battlefield cooled, frozen in silence. Only forgotten swords still remembered the heat of the clashes. Only the wind remained, scattering dust and ashes, testimony of past greatness and tragedy. "Say something, Balud, young master. Please hold on, young master." The battlefield left room for silence and grief. The last survivors found each other amongst the ruins, their hearts filled with longing for the departed and a desire to move on despite everything. The girls' faces reflect shock and despair. They did not expect this turn of events. Their eyes are full of tears, and their expressions speak of the sudden loss and unbearable pain that overwhelmed them at that moment. Tears stream down the cheeks of the warrior, exhausted from the struggle and grief. His eyes stare into the distance, into the void, where only memories continue to exist and the words, "alive," become only an echo of the past. "He's alive. Grandma's alive." Words of hope cut through the silence, bringing clarity to the chaos of emotions. Tears are replaced by smiles, and the weight of loss by relief and gratitude for the life saved. Then all is well. A burst of joy and relief erupts among the survivors. Shouts of joy fill the air, dispelling the last shadows of despair. Their faces light up with happiness after a long wait for peace. Balud should have chosen his words better. A light whisper spares the memories of the road traveled. In the young woman's eyes there is warmth and care. She is ready to support those who are tired of battles. The young gentleman looks like a beaten dog. Dissatisfaction is mixed with concern in the maid's words. Her rebuke is a sign that life goes on, and even in serious moments there is room for austerity and humor. She could not leave the young master so easily. "Am I apologizing?" one of the characters says with sudden modesty and doubt in his voice, as if unsure of what is happening around him and his role in the story. "Hurry, let's get him on the stretcher, quickly." The commands and instructions sound decisive. It's time to act, to care for the wounded and restore order after the chaos of battle. Everyone has a role to play in this new beginning. And in the distance beyond the horizon, the castle rises above the clouds. Its silhouette is a symbol of stability and hope, reminding us that home is always waiting for its heroes, ready to take them back, heal their wounds, and give them rest. What a heartless little boy. The hurt hero's words cut through the silence as he returns home and feels the emptiness of the absence of a warm encounter. "Madam?" Surprise and bewilderment froze on their faces as they learned of the unexpected development, that the previously unthinkable was now a reality. The thing. The beginning of the explanation hangs in the air, foreshadowing stories and revelations that will change their view of past events and what they believe to be true. "What?" The girl's face reflected bewilderment, stunned and full of questions, not understanding the essence of the change that had occurred. "Young Mr. Balud, he—" A snippet of the phrase hangs in the air, leaving room for guesses and assumptions about the fate of a character who seemed to be familiar to the whole world in one way, but now may reveal himself from a completely different side. A little boy in an astronaut costume reaches for his mother. She exclaims, "Come on, Balud, let's fly." His imagination is boundless, and he sees himself as a hero ready for starry adventures, and his mother, playing along with him, becomes a faithful companion in these dreams of flights among the clouds and distant planets. The boy realized he was having a hard time enjoying himself like this. It's a little embarrassing. His feelings overwhelmed his little heart as he realized that dreams and reality were sometimes different. If only someone would realize that he wasn't a little boy at all. Finally, Mom, with a haggard face and noticeable irritation, stands. Her patience was already running out. After all, even the most loving hearts sometimes feel tired, especially when they are pulled into the world of children's fantasies and games. A concerned man addresses the baby in the woman's arms. "What are you talking about anyway?" At the same time, the woman, ironically raising an eyebrow, asks, "What? Did the look on your grandmother's face get you so worked up?" The tension of the moment is diffused by light banter and jokes, creating an atmosphere of family camaraderie. Laughter cuts through the air when a woman, playing merrily with a child, says, "Ha ha ha ha, gosh, what a silly thing to say. Do you agree with me, Balud?" Their joy and playfulness convey the warmth and closeness of the relationships in this family, filled with humor and understanding. The old man, with stubble and a wise look, replies, Well, 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 you shouldn't say that, young people." Despite the fact that he was in the baby's body, his past life had not left him. Ignis was shocked by the kid's answer. A woman whose gaze is tired and full of regret listens to the explosions of misunderstanding that surround her and the child. These lightning bolts seem to reflect the inner storm caused by the difficult moments of raising and caring for a baby who so easily brings adults into her fantasy world. The woman standing next to the child spoke to the man. "Aren't you overworked there, Ignis?" Her voice is full of tenderness and concern, despite her previous irritation. And nearby, in the background, the figure of a man could be seen, to whom the woman asked, "What, you say Balud looked like an old man?" A playful undertone is heard in her words, lending levity to the situation. The girl questioned with a wide smile. "Yeah, so." She turns to the stunned young man who asks with visible bewilderment, "Is this the vendor you were talking about?" Their interaction is filled with friendliness and the simplicity of the moment, where sweets become the subject of light and fun discussion. A young man whose eyes are covered by a strip of cloth and a girl holding his hand tightly says confidently, Exactly. The maid next to him states, I see. She's really something. Her words cut short, creating a sense of understatement and mystery about this shared secret. The woman, discreetly pointing at the girl, concludes, well, he is Ignis's son, after all. This statement emphasizes the connection between the characters and their family ties. The girl calls out with disappointment in her voice, Madam, don't avert your gaze when you say things like that. Her hands are clutching the phone, and her eyes are reproachful rather than angry. The man accompanying her tries to reassure her, don't worry so much. We've taken into account that all sizes are good. Everything will be fine. Their dialogue is filled with care and an attempt to comfort and keep optimism. A woman appears, introducing herself with a smile. Nice to meet you. I'm Rorona, a secretary at Savaran. Her confidence and openness in communication immediately establishes a friendly atmosphere, and she seems ready for a business dialogue. Rorona, already with a sly smile, offers, What, you want to know the secrets of the family? She represents mystery and intrigue, foreshadowing new discoveries, and perhaps even some insider information that could change the course of history. With a wide smile and a cheerful laugh, Rorona challenges, You won't believe it, I can tell you where they have moles. How about it? Her light-hearted mood and cheeky jokes add levity to the story, even though he may reveal some personal information. The child says, I have a little brother. He is 5 years old. The maid introduces herself. Hi, I'm Silern. The boy tries to remember how old his brother is. The boy looks at the maid who says, But there's a little problem. The girl adds with a smile, He's fun to look after and so much fun to play with. These words emphasize the carefree joy of childhood, when even problems seem to be part of play and adventure. A wide smile appears on the boy's face as he shouts out in excitement, Maid Loli! His imagination no doubt transports him to a world where everyday occupations become elements of a grand adventure, and each new character plays a unique role. The girl, embarrassed and a little lost, whispers, Sometimes he scares me. Her restraint and quiet voice express a warm concern, emphasizing her caring nature and perhaps a slight insecurity in this noisy world of children's play. The boy lies on a bed surrounded by amusing and eccentric figures. The entire Cornelius estate stood on its ears, seeing Balud's horrific injuries. The boy is caught up in an incredible story full of adventure and perhaps a small dose of mayhem. In the shadowy hall are gathered figures in cloaks that look like the robes of healers from the distant past. Some sort of conspiracy or secret council gathered around a serious matter looms over them. Their faces are hidden, but anticipation and tension are in the air. A woman in a maid's outfit vigorously points to a door where workers are moving boxes. She says, The family used her company to supply the best medicine. Her determination and dynamic gestures express her role, not just a maid, but a key character in this drug supply network. The woman's face expresses shock, her eyes widened, and her mouth open in surprise or possible epiphany. This moment captures the twist in the plot when she is confronted with something unexpected or a momentous discovery. On an aisle where silhouettes of people in dresses and costumes create a lively atmosphere, the rear view of one of the characters allows us to sense his observation and perhaps even his role as a keeper of order or spectator of this scene. The girl, turning her head, looks surprised and a little puzzled. The name Silern comes out of her mouth. Her gaze is full of questions and assumptions about what exactly is going on. The woman comforts the other maid, saying, I understand your feelings, but you have to give yourself a rest. Her words are full of compassion and care, emphasizing the importance of health and well-being even amidst the turbulence of their daily tasks. A woman with a serious face and a firm gaze expresses determination. I'm fine. Otherwise, at this rate, you're going to fall over soon. Her words carry an underlying concern for her colleagues' well-being, emphasizing the importance of taking care of oneself. The smiling girl replies with ease, I cannot afford to rest while the young master is in such a state. Her smile hides the gravity of her duties, but her eyes burn with determination and devotion to her duty. The woman stands back and says, Silern would go mad if she didn't have the opportunity to care for Balud. This statement reveals a deep connection between the characters, in which caring for the young master is not only a duty, but also something that Silern lived for Balud. Her heart pounded as she turned the calendar on the wall, counting down the days until the meeting. 3 days from now. Morning, she whispered, biting her lower lip anxiously. The words, as if woven of anticipation and hope, filled the silence of the room. Lying in bed, he opened his eyes, drowning in the anxiety that morning had brought. His look was confused and full of doubt. Are you crying? He asked the pile of pillows, picturing her silhouette so distinct in his imagination. Her tear-filled eyes reflected the world she longed to change. An invisible weight rested on her shoulders, as if the heavens themselves had shed their sorrow into her heart, echoing in every tear. The swirl of her skirt and the loud pounding of her heart heralded to him as she rushed to the bedside. His eyes widened in surprise and bewilderment as she brought her hand down on his head with tenderness, but also desperation, earnestly wanting to comfort and be heard. "Young master," burst out through her tears. Her voice trembled with fear and excitement, as if she feared that her words might be the last he would hear. The tears on her cheeks were like pearls, each one carrying a world of her emotions. "Say, I'm fine. I'm already fine, so," he started. But his words were cut short by a startled look. Reality and his own sensations seemed disconnected, and he tried to grasp what was happening so he could understand what she was doing to him. Burying her face in the bed, she couldn't hold back her sobs. Emotions swept over her like waves in a storm, and every trembling limb was soaked with the depth of her feelings. She sought comfort in those words, and though they were barely audible, their sincerity was deafening. He could only stare perplexed, not knowing how to react to this sudden burst of feeling. His body tensed, faced with the sudden storm of emotion, and he felt his own senses begin to respond to her distress. Quiet whisper of, "Thank you, Say," could be heard through the wind outside the window. The words, filled with gratitude and relief, faded into the air, leaving behind only a shadow of the calm that had passed, and the beginning of a new chapter in their story. Voices echoed in the distance, sounding like an echo in a quiet corner of the town. Count Cornelius's estate. They hummed, like an ancient song, hovering in the air above the gloomy walls of a house shrouded in secrets and a past of grandeur. "So why did you gather us together, Erica?" asked a voice in the shadows of the huge bookcases stacked with books to the ceiling. The mystery of the place was palpable, and every rustle felt like the beginning of a new mystery. "It's just an unused warehouse," she replied, and her words scattered among the old volumes and dust. The vast space seemed filled with echoes of bygone eras, as if each book was a silent witness to stories forgotten by time. "How about we chat for a while?" one suggested with hope in his voice, as if it were the key to a forgotten adventure. The air in the room quivered with the possibility of a new beginning, a new story. The laughter and sparks in Erica's eyes. Did you hear we have you now, Zerka Starwind? Should I call you that too?" Her words played in the air, and there was a flicker of mischief in her gaze, promising new challenges. "Just Erica. No need, sister." The answer was full of embarrassment and slight anxiety. Sparks of trust and respect shone in her brother and sister's eyes, even when they were called unusual names. It was a play on words, a dance of identities in which each was willing to accept their unique role. Facing the question that hung in the air like a sword over my head, "So who is to blame for what happened to my son?" The voice was firm and unyielding, every word of it sounding like a sentence. "Heh, they really underestimate me," she whispered to herself, her smile full of confidence and mystery. There was a game lurking in her eyes, and every move in it was calculated to be a step forward. "Unexpectedly challenging me?" she said thoughtfully, as if she saw everything that was happening as another move in a game of chess. Her confidence was unmistakable, and her every gesture indicated that she was ready to accept the throw of the gauntlet. With a radiant smile, one of them recalled, "The guy the boss fought was tough enough." Nostalgia and respect for past trials glimmered in his words. Everyone around them felt the weight of the memories shining through. So you stayed awake, not really scared." Her tone was light and playful, as if she was challenging them to a friendly duel with words, teasing them with memories and fighting spirit. "I don't want to mess with that," Zerky burst out. The words were a mixture of consternation and veiled admiration. They all knew that every battle left its mark, and though the words were heavy, there was a sense of brotherhood and understanding in them. "So you were all busy distracting the enemies. You should have practiced more," she said to her comrades, her words full of seriousness and a call to action. She knew that every moment of calm could only be the calm before the storm. "We're finished," they thought almost simultaneously, feeling the gravity of the situation. There was not only weariness in that silent admission, but also the realization that their fate was now entirely in her hands. "Just clarifying, if Balud had died," her words were cold and judicious. There was no room for emotion in them. "I know that staying alive is the primary goal of a mercenary, and I have nothing against it," she added, strengthening their resolve and reminding them of the priorities of their difficult journey. "Lucky you, huh?" she said jokingly, playing a game with him in which the stakes were extremely high. Her smile hid years of determination, and every word was weighty, as if centuries of cold steel had wreathed her. "Ha ha, no need to make such a fuss, sis," he retorted, undaunted even in the face of the challenge. Laughter was his shield, and he knew that each of them had cards yet to be played. "Now it is clear that I must punish this foolish child." The words sounded decisive and peremptory. The hand clutching the sword was ready for action, and in every movement there was a readiness to fulfill the promise made by fate itself. Her voice cut through the silence as she recalled the contract still binding them. She stood, confident and unwavering, in front of faces puzzled by the sudden reminder of duty. "What?" The question flew from their lips, but was instantly intercepted by her retort about the justice of punishment, as if it were the inevitable finality of their risky game. Excitement swept over them as they hurriedly excused themselves, each from his own side. The voices intertwined into a chaotic chorus of worry and anxiety for the fates left waiting. They threw around words, trying to fend off the blow of fate, genuinely not understanding exactly what it meant by the word punishment. And then, in the midst of their confusion, she gave them a smile full of ambiguity. "Be glad you're still alive." Her words were both a balm to troubled souls and a reminder that their lives hung in the balance, and she held the scissors of fate. It was a reminder of the value of every moment of peace they still possessed. He was sitting at his desk, his eyes staring off into the distance, full of thought and indecision. There was a spark of struggle and inner conflict in his eyes, as if he stood at the crossroads of several difficult paths, each requiring its own kind of courage. With firm footsteps, he approached the door, his determination clear in his movements. His hand touched the knob, as if he were ready to open a new chapter or close an old one, facing something unknown that waited beyond the threshold. "Okay," he muttered to himself, preparing himself for what was to come. It wasn't just a word, it was an admission to himself that it was time to move on, despite all the doubts and fears that clung to his soul. A man stood by a bookcase, touching the pages of an ancient book. "I'm coming in." The boy's voice came softly, filled with confidence and a quiet anticipation of what his words might reveal. "You're here at last," the answer came suddenly, like an echo long awaited. The hand that reached out to him was determined to meet the fate they had woven together. Turning, he saw his silhouette on the threshold, his figure sharply outlined against the lighted windows. The air between them was saturated with the anticipation and uncertainty of the future they had just begun to draw together. He, with an impenetrable look, uttered a quiet, "Wait," closing his eyes as if shutting himself off from the outside world for a moment to gather his thoughts. The answer was brief. All right, there was a humility on his face, accepting the inevitable, but at the same time there was a lively sense of hope that patience would lead to something meaningful. In the next moment, filled with sharp contrasts of light and shadow, the action was swift and clear. One rushed forward, full of determination, while the other was caught off guard, only his reaction betraying an inner readiness for the coming clash. Standing in full determination, he asked a question in a voice that sounded less like anger than a search for an answer. "Do you see why I hit you?" It was more than a reproach. It was a test for both of them, a clash of beliefs and principles. "Yeah," was the only thing the overturned man could squeeze out of himself. The expression on his face spoke of mixed feelings, surprise, pain, and realization of what was happening. He was confused, but at the same time it seemed that he was beginning to realize the reasons for what was happening. And then their dialogue began, full of hard questions and accusations. "When do you think Selvi started interfering?" he asked, looking back over the months when the work began in earnest, alluding to the events leading up to their conflict. He was looking for answers, not just excuses. He admitted with a downcast look, "I wanted the farm to look like a private enterprise. There would have been problems if I had reported it." There was a genuine concern in his words and an intention to push for the best, despite the strictness of his methods. "So has Selvi's servant proven to be weak?" he challenged, doubting his ability to stand behind his words and actions. There was not mere suspicion in his questioning, but a desire to see his certainty confirmed. "No, it was the first time I stood up to someone other than my mom who was much stronger than me," he replied, feeling the weight of his confession and accepting the weight of the lessons he had learned from the encounter. It was a moment of personal growth and the realization that adversity makes us stronger. His gaze became piercing, and he asked a question that expressed a deeper concern. "Do you realize what would happen if you were defeated?" It was as much about warning as it was about realizing the gravity of the consequences. The words that followed were quiet, but they felt the importance of the moment. Ceylern and Celine would be taken, and the mercenaries killed. The meaning was vague, but suggested a deep connection between current actions and their long-term impact on the future. "As far as I know, their appearance there is pure chance." His reply was modest, recognizing that not everything in life is subject to control, and that sometimes chance plays a decisive role in our fates. The gravity of the situation was emphasized by his words spoken through the glass of the window. But it could have been worse. The children who worked there could have died. This statement was not just a warning, but a reminder of the weight of every action and its possible consequences. His gaze was fixed on the passing people in the distance as he continued. "Therefore, we must not endanger them because of our troubles. It is our duty as nobles to protect the country and the people." These words were filled with a sense of duty and responsibility that he considered immutable. "I may not be the best father, but I recognize the value of what I have a duty to protect." His voice sounded firm and confident, emphasizing a deep understanding of his role. He knew that his responsibilities as a protector went beyond personal interests and encompassed the good of the entire community. "Balud," he began, recognizing in that address both affection and regret. "I've already thought about it," he continued, demonstrating that his decisions were not spontaneous or ill-considered. He had considered every step, every word before he spoke out. But his next words were full of determination. "But I plan to send you to the Royal Knight School next month." He didn't just consider the future, but made a concrete decision that would determine the next stage of the young man's journey. "By the rules, you should have been punished, but I trust and you will be accepted, even though you are 12. There you will be taught the determination and pride that nobles need." With those words, he emphasized his faith in him and that he deserved a future worthy of their kind and his own potential. As he listened, he expressed his intention. "I have 2 requests." His voice was firm, and his stance expressed a readiness to defend his terms to the one who stood before him imperiously and adamantly. "So you must promise that they can continue to work there and stay safe. The farm is a way for those children to earn a living." He insisted on protecting the weaker ones, showing maturity and responsibility beyond his age. "I can assure you, Selvi, you can no longer attack them. We can hire as many guards as necessary," Father replied, offering a solution that would relieve the tension and ensure a peaceful future for all affected parties. It's that woman's company. I owe her for the medicine she delivered. I will do everything in my power to help them. He spoke of a debt of honor, showing his gratitude and willingness to act in the best interest of those who once helped him. So please make sure that other nobles do not interfere with their work. His voice was insistent. He demanded assurances for those who depended on this work for survival. My second request has to do with Savaron Company, he added, expressing concern for an important aspect of the community. Is that all? Father asked, his tone calm, but there was a recognition in his eyes that the petitions were weighty. Thank you, he replied briefly, signaling that the requests had been heard and would be honored. And then the father, suddenly and unexpectedly to himself, embraced the young man, as if trying to convey his support and understanding. The gesture was full of emotion and expressed more than words could say. It was a recognition of the deep bond between them. With a peacefulness in his eyes and a quiet recognition, he said, "I'm really glad you're alive." These words were filled with relief and warmth, reflecting the depth of his feelings and genuine concern. "Dad." The quiet reply sounded strangled, as if it was a mixture of respect, love, and gratitude for the care and understanding shown. Balud's tears slid down his cheek like a river breaking through a dam. The moment was filled with a special intimacy rarely allowed in their world, where stoicism and strength were valued above outward displays of affection. The air was tense, and here he confessed, all the emotions were just pouring out. Perhaps it was because my father forgave him for his fear of death. With every word, the depth of his experience and the passionate desire to express what he was feeling came through. He was no longer a genius inventing strange things, he reflected, pondering the change in his father that had led to today's moment. It was the realization that even strong people could experience fear, and that fear could lead to important changes. As the carriage carried them off into the distance, these confessions and reflections were the beginning of a new journey, a journey on which they would both learn to understand each other more deeply, against the backdrop of a world that continued to move forward despite their inner storms. The carriage with Balud and family set off for the capital. Slowly but surely, its wheels kicked up the dust of the road, while the horizon drew the line of new beginnings. All around lay a vast plain where every breath of wind filled the journey with the anticipation of miracles. "This is incredible," exclaims the young lady, her face shining with delight and genuine surprise. You can see that every moment of this journey is a discovery for her, and she is ready to absorb every detail of the world that unfolds before her. "Our area is mostly just swamps. Young master, look, waves in the lake." So echoes another traveler, strengthening the bond with his companion by his admiration in the face of nature. His gaze is fixed on the lake, where the water surface reflects the heavens, and the waves play to the whisper of the wind. The girl presses herself against the carriage window, her eyes widened with wonder and joy. Apparently the scenery outside the glass is breathtaking. Her face is lit up with excitement, and every corner of her mind is absorbed in what is happening outside. The young man next to her is watching her reaction with a slight smile, his gaze gentle and thoughtful. Perhaps he has already seen everything that is now delighting his companion, and finds pleasure in watching her joy. "Young master, is something troubling you?" asks the girl, addressing her companion. Her interest and concern for the gentleman is on her face, as is her willingness to share the joy of travel and new discoveries. "Nothing like that," he replies, trying to hide his embarrassment. He fixes his hair in passing, but his gestures give away his nervousness, as if his mind is spinning with thoughts he's not ready to express aloud. "You're pretty weird today." The girl teases him, winking and teasing at his unexpected behavior. Her laughter sounds light and casual. She is clearly enjoying this easy conversation and the joking mood between them. "Damn it, it's still awkward," he admits, finally trying to come to terms with his excitement. You can see that he's embarrassed by more than just the conversation. Perhaps there are feelings brewing in his heart that he's not yet ready to admit. Preparations for school entry are forthcoming. He sighs. It seems that this journey has been long and demanding. The uncertainty of the future is in the air, and his heart is filled with many feelings, including anxiety about the challenges ahead. I think I'm more or less done, he reflects as he stands in the classroom, surrounded by books and study materials. His folded arms speak of his determination, but also of the fact that he is still searching for confidence. That I barely audibly escapes him as he tries to focus on the tasks ahead. His eyes reflect an inner struggle and mixed emotions. Determination clashed with the anxiety natural to a teenager. "With this mountain of money?" he exclaims, sitting in front of a huge pile of coins. It is a visual embodiment of his labors and hopes, a materialized proof of his efforts. His gaze is fixed on the distance, as if he is trying to appreciate the entire journey that has brought him here. Selling gilded jewelry, sugar, and other things. He remembers all the times he traded, every coin he earned, not without labor. It seems that every item he sold was part of a big plan, a big dream. They're all gold, he exclaims, unable to contain his excitement. There is fire in his eyes and an expression of uncontrollable delight on his face. What was once only a dream has now become his reality, and this feeling of happiness overwhelms him completely. "The moment has finally arrived," he exclaims, waving his hair enthusiastically. This is the moment when all his dreams are to come true, and he can't hide the emotions exploding inside. The glow of the stars in his eyes reflects the infinite potential of this moment. "Whoa, wait a minute!" He suddenly stops, fist clenched in determination. Maybe the last second of doubt had passed through his mind. Or maybe he realized that the real test was yet to come. "Don't be in such a hurry, Balud," someone shouts after him. It is a call to caution, or a reminder that it is important not only to reach the goal, but also to preserve oneself along the way. The voice sounds caring and perhaps a bit of reproachful humor. "You're about to cross the point of no return," resounds in the desperate cry of one of them. The words are full of seriousness, and his grip is tight, as if he is trying with his last strength to keep the other from taking a fatal step. "Just shut up. It's unforgivable." The response is full of determination and anger. You can hear the irritation in his voice, perhaps because of the other person's inability to understand the depth of his intentions or fear of the difficulties ahead. "Be patient. Don't give in to temptation," he shouts, trying to rouse the boy's willpower. His eyes sparkle with despair, but also with an unshakable faith that it's not too late to change his mind. "Isn't it marvelous?" One of them can't help but marvel as he shows off the treasure he's found. His face lights up with joy and exhilaration at the unexpected find that will probably change their lives. The utterance is short but full of the realization that sometimes reality exceeds expectations. It is an awe of admiration, an awe of surprise, and an awe of satisfaction that the effort was not in vain. "Just give in to your desires. People should be more honest." The words sound like a call for honesty to oneself, a recognition that sometimes one should just accept one's desires and be happy with what life has to offer. A whirlwind of emotions and exclamations envelops them, tension and dynamics in every movement. At this moment, it seems that they are both on the verge of some significant event that could turn everything upside down in an instant. I am simply expressing my gratitude to him for saving my life. "This is my thanks to Sana," one says, showing that even in the most chaotic of circumstances, there is room for sincerity and gratitude to shine through the storm of emotions. In front of them is a path lined with coins, illuminated by the stars of success and achievement. Every step he takes is confident and determined, and in every movement he reads the intention to reach the end, despite all the obstacles. That glitter, this sparkle is driving me crazy. His joy overwhelms him, the light from the shiny coins reflected in his eyes. It's pure, genuine admiration for achievement and the fact of success. That gold is right in front of me, and then the amusement. He stands in front of his goal with a great sense of satisfaction. His posture reads the readiness to embrace the whole world, to take everything he can from life. Who cares why? His words are full of rebellious spirit and carelessness. At this moment, he gives himself completely to his emotions. Nothing can stop him. This is so cool. This is so cool. His laughter echoes around him, and he is living this moment with his full chest. This is the rare case when a person is so happy that his emotions are contagious to others. Are you really going to study in the capital, young master? The exclamation is full of bewilderment and delight at the same time. She can't believe that a new chapter in her friend's life is unfolding before her. Her eyes are wide open, full of surprise, and her gaze is fixed on the unexpected sight that unfolded before her. Everything that was happening made her heart beat faster with shock and joy for him. Coins fly in all directions, creating a tinkling dance of wealth and opportunity around them. Falling into a pile of gold is a metaphor not only for physical well-being, but also for the accumulated experience that he will be able to use in his pursuit of new horizons. The sound of impact echoes through the room as he falls, and she still stands on the threshold, stunned by what has happened. This moment of surprise and upheaval in their history will leave an imprint on their future path. In their eyes, you can read the complete opposite of emotions. On the one hand, carefree fun, on the other, shock and anxiety. It is as if they were at different poles of the same event. No, Sailorn. He tries to say something, but the words are lost in his broken state. Sitting among the piles of coins, he still can't believe what's happening around him. Muso. Their screams fill the air, forming a chorus of disbelief and denial. Each of them reacts in their own way to a situation that has gotten out of control. Don't talk about it. As if trying to drown out reality, she covers her ears. Her gesture reads a refusal to accept what is happening, while he stands shaking, as if trying to shake off the unbelievability of his experience. Young Lord Trunk. She ponders as she gazes at the majestic building before him. It is a fortress of knowledge where every floor is filled with new lessons and discoveries ready to greet him. Half an hour later, the men found a desperate Balud. Time and fate play their games with them, and here he is amidst the darkness and light of corridors where every step can lead to new drama or triumph. It's not my fault, he defends himself, but his face expresses a mixture of feelings, guilt, perhaps mixed with denial, and an unbending will to stand by his decisions. Young master, are you okay? Why can't we forget about this? The question sounded filled with concern and bewilderment. The girl's face is filled with genuine concern and a desire to help, but also a lack of understanding as to why you can't just let go of the past. Speaking of which, he begins as if opening a new page in their shared history. They're both in a carriage that sways slowly, taking them further away from the beginning of their adventure. Isn't it natural? She's surprised by his words, and her gaze is full of questions. The unexpectedness of this conversation makes her search for answers that had been so obvious until then. I've been taking care of you since you were a child. Who else could have handled it? She says. And in her words you can hear not only care, but deep affection. It's not just an obligation. It's a feeling that comes from the heart. Please take care of me today, he asks, and you can see hope in his eyes. It is as if he is asking not only for care, but also for support in the trials ahead. I've already been assigned a mission, she says, as if opening a new chapter in their shared adventure. Her expression is serious, determined to accomplish what is required of her. While I was thinking about it, she continues, her eyes filled with determination, and there is a depth of thought in her tone. Her words emphasize the importance of the moment, and what is to be done is not just some random task. That's right. I have a secret task that even the multitudes of the Lord don't know about. He shares with her, trusting her with the most hidden of secrets. His secret is the key to the next phase of their journey. I will fulfill it. There is no hesitation in her voice. She is fully committed to her mission. Her confidence and courage could determine their fates. A few kilometers earlier, before Balud's departure, the narrative takes us back to the past, to the moment that determined their current course. It is a reminder that every choice leads to unpredictable consequences. She addresses the man with harshness in her voice, the allegation of physical abuse hanging in the air, like an invisible accusing finger. Her gaze is piercing, and she expects a non-contradictory answer. The man immersed in his reading seems detached from the situation, his calmness contrasting with the tenseness of the question. Yes, it was his failure, so he should be punished. His words flow icily, leaving no room for doubt in his judgment. His affirmation of yes sounds final, and he accepts the consequences of his actions. His admission of failure does not cause him remorse. His resolve does not waver in the face of accusation. The man continues, yes, and he himself agreed to it, a note of surprise in his voice as if he finds the question of his own guilt almost absurd. His certainty that his actions were the right thing to do is unquestioned. She exclaims with praise, listing the accomplishments, protecting the girls and the farm, exterminating the enemies. This was not just an act. It was a result worthy of respect and recognition. Her words are filled with admiration for an action that she believes deserves heroic praise. He disagrees with this perception of events, emphasizing that even if he acted solely in his own interest, it would already be an achievement. His words are harsh, and he puts the result above everything else, pointing out the priorities and the cost of success. He continues, claiming that he has never put people in danger, emphasizing his responsibility and commitment. In his voice you can hear the defense of his own honor and principles, which he is not ready to violate for the sake of victory. Her interest in the events is shown through reproach. She emphasizes that keeping the sugar a secret was a mistake, and that he could have asked for help. Her words reflect bewilderment and a sense of obligation to help, even when it may go against his wishes or pride. The moment of the explosion envelops him, and the words, "It's only sugar," are lost among the splinters. The suddenness of what is happening forces him to cover himself, and the silence of the moment is broken by the shock and surprise of this action. He feels the impact, and his punctuated sigh of eek reflects pain and amazement. The situation spirals out of control and he tries to recover, but reality comes crashing down on him without warning. She questions how he did it, pointing out his actions and their consequences. Her words are full of bewilderment and trying to understand the motives behind his actions. Does your brain even work? Her question is harsh, demanding an explanation and the logic behind his actions. That's another reason to guard our... Her words are interrupted, and there is not only reproach in them, but a realization that there is something more worth protecting, something that goes beyond personal interests and achievements. She weaves reproach into her words, rebuking attempts to manage something of value that someone else has put their hands on. Her questioning tone emphasizes the growing responsibility and consequences that can follow such actions. From her perspective, the accusation of wanting to make sure that the secrets of their ancestors are passed on in their family sounds a note of caution. The need to preserve heritage and continuity is emphasized. He listens attentively, and his, "Oh, now I understand," reflects a moment of realization. What has just been explained to him sheds light on previous events and his role in them. She assures that she will take control of the situation, relying on her familiarity. This statement reflects her confidence and ability to take responsibility for handling the situation. With her smile and ease, she makes a surprise announcement about canceling her enrollment, adding that it in no way reflects on the ballad, which she says did nothing wrong. The light-heartedness of her words defies the gravity of the situation, but she doesn't lose her optimism. She continues, expressing her belief that if he has done nothing wrong, there is no need for additional action. Her question about retraining seems rhetorical. She is certain of his innocence and that he deserves a second chance. His objection, "As if I would do that," followed by "why not," reflects internal conflict and resistance. He is unwilling to make decisions that he feels do not match the reality of the situation. He strongly states that he cannot simply agree and abandon his plans. His words that not only the general, but also the chairman of the school and His Majesty agreed to make this decision show the significance of the situation, and that the decision was deliberate and approved at the highest level. With a smile, she paints a bright future, where he can make friends and make connections that will prove valuable in the future. She is confident that the school will offer him more than just academic knowledge, hinting at vast development prospects. Her words enrage him. He can't believe she's seriously considering such an outcome, His what? Sounds like an echo of his inner shock, as if he still can't get over the thought of the changes in his life. She continues, jokingly referring to the place where he lost his innocence and urging him to be calm. Her words are imbued with irony and levity, but also with the comfort that the past no longer matters. In the end, she softens things up by reminding him that everything happened a long time ago, and encourages a positive outlook on the future by reminiscing about the old days when battles were fought like the good old days. This view of the past as something that no longer matters gives him freedom from past mistakes. His past is shrouded in mystery, but it is clear that the encounters and events under the pseudonym Unshakable Ignis have left a significant mark on his fate. Whoever decides his fate says he must be punished for his attempts to destroy his son's bonds, which brings to mind deeply personal and possibly painful moments in their history. Exile from his home walls and loneliness in a cold office is the punishment for his actions. Despite his opposition, he manages to go to school, which shows his persistence and perhaps cunning or luck. She assures him of her experience and ability to protect the young lord. Her words suggest a strong sense of duty and a willingness to stand up for him, despite previous disagreements and fears. And in the end, she jokes about her predicament while remaining optimistic and lighthearted. Her laughter breaks the tension and shows that, despite all the obstacles, she retains the ability to look forward to the future with hope and good cheer. The young gentleman is visibly worried, his eyes filled with anxiety. He tells the villager that he should be able to see by now. The villager, with an impenetrable gaze, listens to him intently, but his thoughts remain a mystery. The setting suggests a journey, perhaps in search of something important. The train carriage jerks abruptly, causing the hero to gasp in surprise. Something unexpected interrupts the peace of the journey. Perhaps it is a hint of adventure or unforeseen difficulties that the heroes will face in the near future. And now the majestic capital opens before them. The young gentleman's eyes widen with amazement and admiration. And he is completely overwhelmed by his first glimpse of the capital, a feeling he shares with the villager, who seems eager to know what lies ahead. The panorama of Chameleon opens before the heroes, a city shrouded in the spirit of medieval legends and modern mysteries. Its majestic walls and winding streets promise new adventures and unexplored stories. This vision of the city fills them with anticipation of future events. With enthusiasm and a note of hope in his voice, the young gentleman declares that this will now be his home. He grasps the window handle, his eyes glowing with joy and determination. He is ready to be a part of this new world and its unexplored corners. The young man is in the center of attention. His silhouette is carved against the background of some huge and powerful creature. This may symbolize an inner struggle or an impending confrontation that the hero will have to face in the near future. The young lord and the villager are now at each other's side, their faces reflecting mixed feelings. They may realize that the adventures that await them will not be easy, but together they are ready to face whatever comes their way. And so our heroes reach the school of royal knights. Massive stone walls and mighty towers rise before them, as if inviting them to enter a world full of knowledge and exploits. This is the place where a new chapter of their lives will begin. A shadowy silhouette meets them at the threshold. "I have been awaiting your arrival," says the as-yet unseen voice. The greeter is undoubtedly instrumental in their upcoming training, and perhaps will be their mentor or test. Laughter breaks out as a man with a cheerful and open face appears. "Long time no see, eh?" His joy is infectious and promises the characters a warm and friendly atmosphere in this new place. Finally, he greets them with great enthusiasm. "I've been waiting for your enrollment for a long time. Welcome to the Royal Knights School, Knights. This man is the key to the next trials that will test their spirit and determination." The young hero, radiant with joy and surprise, apologizes for his father's inappropriate request, revealing that his past is full of stories and connections to be learned about. The time spent with his father has left a mark on his heart and character. The school principal, readily correcting the protagonist, points out his true position. "While we're here, call me principal, not general," he says, emphasizing the difference between past and present, between a military field and an educational institution. The principal respects the hero's talent, demonstrating that every student here is a future potential that the school strives to develop. He is ready to help the young knight find his way in this new and uncharted world. With a smile and sincerity, the young hero apologizes for his father's insolent request. It has been a while since they have seen the general, and this reunion seems like an important step in his journey. The headmaster speaks lightly and humorously about the difficulty of fulfilling the little boy's demand, perhaps referring to some previous amusing history that binds him and the young protagonist. His words bring a warm touch to the seriousness of the moment. The villager standing next to her shares her joy and ease, smiling and seeming to laugh at the situation. Her cheerful expression emphasizes the contrast between her and the more reserved young man. The hero, a little confused, feels the villager lay her head on his shoulder and doesn't know how to react. In this gesture is the ease and trust they share, and perhaps a foreshadowing of their future relationship. A man in his late teens stands in the workshop talking thoughtfully about something, addressing an invisible interlocutor in the background. His words are full of seriousness and determination. He is sure of the necessity to keep the girl close to him. Now a young man with a surprised expression on his face. A gray-haired man, probably his older companion or mentor, explains with a slight reproachful tone the rules that have been broken. The young man's reaction is immediate and emotional. His gaze is full of bewilderment and slight panic. "Mom?" As if this was the explanation for everything that had happened, the final key to understanding the situation. The atmosphere is tense, but the older man shows patience and compassion as he tries to calm the young man. His words are caring and understanding, despite the strict rules that must be adhered to. A man with a sharp gaze and a serious face shares memories of a difficult past, of a time when teachers went into battle, risking everything. His words cut through time, reminding us of those who went to the front. The same young man as before, this time doubting the prospects and outcome of the upcoming battle. His gaze is skeptical and perplexed, clearly unsure of success. The young man's emotions are at their peak. He is surrounded by ghosts of the past, symbols of loss and fear. His voice is one of despair, for there is no chance of victory. Finally, the gray-haired man again urges caution, his hand resting affectionately on the young man's shoulder. The words, "ask me" or "señora," reflect a willingness to support and protect in any situation. An empty classroom and a voice coming from behind the door suggests a break, perhaps to gather strength after a tiring day. The next moment, a man's gaze penetrates the workshop window, his sigh of, "Oh my God," reflecting weariness, a complicity with heavy reflection or unexpected news. Now the scene of care is revealed before us, or is it only a play of light and shadow, creating the illusion of a motherly caress that rests on the face of the sleeper? Finally, the young man and the girl together, her gaze full of regret and his full of weariness, as if both are trying to accept the inevitable and move on. He clenches his fist so tightly that the joints turn white, reflecting the steadfastness of his decision. The words, "I have an unbearable thirst for results," and, "with the arrival of this finger genius, my school will begin to change," express his firm intention to change the way things are. Loud laughter echoes over the old building, filled with the shadows of the evening sky. "Oh, we'll have to fight him sometime." The words resonate in the air, promising a future confrontation, fateful and inevitable. A uniformed hand gently touches the breastplate, as if trying to ascertain the reality of what is happening. A brief, "well," pervades the moment, hinting at mixed feelings of surprise and determination in the face of the challenges ahead. The atmosphere is filled with a sense of anticipation and anxiety. Is everything going to be all right? The boy thinks, his gaze furtive and full of reflection. We'll be in separate rooms now. The words echo in his head, heralding a new phase of their life and relationship. Flattering words hover in the air, directed towards the young man standing in front of the imposing figure. "You look lovely in your uniform, young master." His appearance is emphasized, perhaps preparation for an important event. The attention is shifted to a detail of the garment, the collar. A discreet gesture and the words, "Wait, your collar," indicate care and attention to details that can be decisive at an important moment. The girl cuts through the air with confidence and grace with her cloak, asserting her role and authority. "It's all right. It's my job after all." She emphasizes that control of the situation is entirely in her hands. The young man's countenance reflects a mixture of feelings, surprise and gratitude. As thank you say, he expresses appreciation for the help, perhaps beginning to realize the depth of his connection to this man. School always seems to be full of rumors and secrets. Among the whispers, one hears about a young boy who supposedly broke the age record. Skepticism and curiosity are born out of such talk. Some even joke that he is only 12. Classmates, shrouded in the gloom of the room and white clouds of dialogue, continue the discussion, sharing rumors about his origins. The stories leave room for speculation, such as the assumption that the young man was left without parents. Doubts and assumptions fill the air as a group of teens speculate about the possibility that this guy has no real parents. Was he orphaned by cruel fate? Or is there something more behind it? Irving Brooks, apparently the central figure in this story, seems as surprised as we are. His reaction to the questions indicates that he did not expect this turn of events. His wide-open eyes and slightly open mouth express surprise at what is happening around him. Finally, the encounter with Irwin takes place in an unexpected setting. He seems to sneak up on the girl immersed in reading, and her reaction to his sudden appearance is mixed with surprise and embarrassment. The moment, full of understatement and mystery, adds depth to the relationship between the characters. I wonder how their relationship with Balud will play out.